All right. Just had to make sure I shut off my verification thing. I could actually hear the echo already, and I didn't want to assault you guys with sound before I said something because I was like, echo, echo, echo. Weird that I just said that because I was speaking of this exact same concept today relative to, how DNA influences the structure of rainbows and our physical reality layer. Like, it's like this etheric bridge, I guess, between the spiritual and the physical that we get to see right in front of us because it involves that layer that interacts with the universal plasma field, which is a sort of, vibrant, multicolored, you know, well, how should I say it? We perceive it that way, right? But it's because I think what goes on within human DNA is that all of us have these unique signatures in our blood that form the projection that we all exist in, and so each person's like physical chemistry manifests within the projection that they place outbound. And the signs of this are everywhere. It's obvious because wherever there's a common race or culture, the projection is the same. Again, we perceive it simply as over time they developed into having these kind of buildings and these types of roads and whatever. But and the language and the signage, all the things that are around, right? But I think it's way deeper than that. I think when you really get down to it, it's because it's a shared projection. It's because they're manifesting it, you know. And then that's what that collective, because of their unique signature from their space-time reference within where they landed relative to the where everybody else landed at their specific spot, and then how quickly they began to interact with other cultures and other continents, because I think a lot of this was divided by continents, and that's why you see these large differences in races and the way people physically look. And I also think it also influences people's perception of history. I was having this kind of conversation back and forth with a friend earlier that what I'm really feeling like is kind of going on. I know this is a little bit off topic, but it is involving the map research too. Is that what we exist in today, currently in the year 2022, is that we have like a whole bunch of merged dimensions and merged timelines that we don't even realize that's what we are in. We think of it just simply as we're all just a bunch of people who are here with a shared history in common, and that we travel back and forth to one another's lands. And sometimes we'll just hang out and permanently stay there. But, guys, at the end of the day, that's not the way humans were designed. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing where we are today as far as being able to know each other and see each other and go place to place. It just simply means that the human body truly wasn't designed for us to have that type of interaction. If we were in a certain land, the human body was designed to basically only get you so far. There's only so far you can go on two legs. Even if you're a good runner, even if you spend all your time walking from one place to the next or whatever, there's only so far you're going to go. And what I mean to say by that is that I personally think, so this is relevant to the discussion of maps because, we're all forming this, folks. I mean, none of this in physical reality really is what we think it is. So we're forming it. So what I believe is happening here, and the reason why everything is the way it is that continents really, or like clusters where there's a continent and maybe, shared land masses even, are more representations of where people were in a similar dimensional space-time reference. And that it's because of things like ships and planes and automobiles and even just traveling by horse and by other things, like when humans started to discover like, oh wow, you can get on the back of a horse and travel a lot faster. Oh wow, you can make a car and get even further. Oh hey, we can design these ships to take us clear across from this landmass to this landmass. And when people went and did that, especially on those older ships, they would get sea legs they would feel imbalanced when they arrived on the land that they got to, right? Because the whole time they've been in this sort of this, they've been doing this the entire time, up, down, in this really aggressive way. I would say that every time, like, like the movie Time Bandits, this is what I think is really cool about some types of entertainment. Like for me, whatever you think about it, whatever its intentions are, I believe like Time Bandits is a great way to communicate what I'm talking about. Even though it's a story, guys, and I'm not going to tell you that this is reality. Well, look, guys, Terry Gilliam, actually, if you follow his work, he kind of hits it on the head more frequently than he doesn't. The Zero Theorem, for example, is a really mind blowing film if you really get down to what he's talking about in that. Sorry, guys, I haven't quite got to the topic yet. And we're about 5 minutes in. So I should really get deeper into specifically about maps. But I wanted to give some folks some time to join. But, we got about 5 folks in here right now, and that's cool. I'm sure we're going to get, at least a few more here as the time goes on. So I'll try to just like get some of the material going, I guess. But just sort of keeping these things in the back of your mind about, what really is a map, like what is a continent, and when you think about like when people say like, well, was this land like truly this way, or did it used to be ice, or was this used to be melted? Because we have all these maps that show places like Greenland used to actually not be a huge land of ice. It used to actually be green. It used to actually be fertile. It used to be inhabitable. That Antarctica isn't an accurate representation. That there's all kinds of maps that show Antarctica functions differently than we're shown on modern maps. And so it does beg the question, are we evolving as a culture, or are we being hoodwinked globally in more sophisticated ways as far as how we perceive all these things? Because again, guys, I'm not, again, and you're welcome to have that chat amongst each other in here about flat earth versus round earth. But I would argue that if you begin having that discussion right now, you're missing my point entirely, because if you understand reality the way that I do, it's both and neither, if that makes sense to you, because everything is plasma. We vibrate it into physical reality. And so in order for us to be able to hang out here and actually stick around and talk to one another and not float all over the place, we have this shared agreement that we call gravity, and that just keeps us here. And so whatever, guys, so if you want to say that that means that the earth is flat and that's how you can process that, then it is. And if you can actually see and visualize, because you're visualizing energy through a curved lens, that you can actually see the curvature of the plasma field that we exist in. Because to me, that's kind of what's going on. It's like, sure, yeah, right now, like this is flat, this ground is flat, yet I'm conscious and aware that everything that I'm existing is influenced by a curved model. And that curved model is basically the thing that I've been talking about very frequently, that you have your eyes as energy transmit and receive input output. And that, remember always, folks, that the brain receives no light. This is the one thing that you have to always keep in mind, is that when you look up at the sun and it shines into your face, that you're really not getting light. That's not light that's shining in your face. It's energy. It's energy that's pulsing your light body. And these are some of the most porous entries in your face to actually input energy. Your ears, because think about it, guys. What you have really like with the nose is something that's somewhere between your skeletal structure and like your skin and your epidural layer. It's that, it goes like that, right? Mine does, at least. I'm very Mr. Potato Head with my plasticity of my face and everything. Whatever, guys. What I'm saying though is that that light doesn't actually reach to the center of your brain. So when you walk outside and you look up and you see light all around you, what's really going on in this process? And I would argue that it's just simply, these are psychoenergetic processes that you're experiencing that manifest into something that you perceive as physical reality. You're vibrating it into physical reality through shared agreements with everyone else. We're all just saying to ourselves, yeah, this is a table. Why? Because a whole bunch of people made one day. Somebody thought up the table, they made the blueprints. It was all the parts were assembled, and now this is the table that this computer rests on. I mean, it's really like manifesting physical reality from an idea craft, if you want to call it. If you want to call it a cult craft, fine. But it exists in daily things. So I'm not saying, guys, is like to try to find voodoo and everything, but understand that like there is a certain degree of manifestation, magic, witchcraft, okay, into nearly everything involving construction and building things and bringing things into physical reality, whatever it is. Someone thinks of it, gets others to think of it and focus and concentrate on it. And eventually, the idea that the one person or the few people thought up, it manifests into physical reality. So the bions form together, they come up here into the ionosphere, and then it kind of rain, just like clouds rain down, right? There's something that's going on up there that's somewhere between water and physical reality that we're perceiving and everything else like that. It's not, well, it is water because it winds up raining down, right? But it's pulling it up and then bringing it back down. And there's something like that going on with the way that we're actually taking this energy in and out, and how every frequency that's inputting, so sound going into our ears, energy going into our eyes from the light, from the sun. And I would argue that the combination between the way the light hits us there, and then there's that hidden aspect of the magnetic field from the moon. So you're getting this combination of, your mind is, you have hemispheres of the brain, which I would argue the whole reason why the human body is the way it is because there's the sun and the moon. You have a representation within your the hemispheres of your brain. And then the physical reality that we exist in is because the overlapping spheres that are identical, right? The sun basically looks like the moon. There are these discs, one with an energy field, one with a magnetic field. And then you get this when they come together. And then that's why that physical reality, well, there's your light body. Now we're getting into, the whole the biofield. And so, guys, I'll get back into showing you. Let's see. Yeah, okay, fine. Turn it on. Jeez. Sorry, guys. This app is it. Sorry, let me turn down the brightness. Okay, so then you have the biofield. Okay, I just measured mine, by the way. This is mine from tonight. I've actually measured my energy field. So I'm not saying this out of like, guys, you manifest things into physical reality. Okay, here's what I'm trying to explain to you guys is this here is just a measurement using a device by a Russian researcher named Dr. Karatov. He developed this device that takes these static discharge, it pulses to your hands, and then it generates your biofield measurement from that. Okay. And so what I'm suggesting to you is that what you're seeing here is more than just this sort of like whatever. It's not just some fancy aura, whatever. This is actually a representation of like the blueprint for what comes into physical reality that is your body. It begins in the biofield. And so, how they say like placebo effect things, or let me put it this way. How about the way that trauma and stress and depression affects a person's physical body? Those are those are psychological things. Okay. But see, everything that's psychological is psychoenergetic. And everything that's psychoenergetic is within this biofield. Okay. And so the more times somebody can influence you in a negative way, it chips away at this biofield. It actually makes this reduce. So when I measure these things, folks, it's for a reason. It's because I want people to understand. It's like the there's certain people that just constantly radiate this. They are just like oceans of bioenergy. I seem to be one of them because I never have any open flares anywhere in my biofield. It almost never happens. It can get a lot weaker than this, but I never have like chips in it. And I've seen biofields that actually have huge openings in different parts, which suggests to me that again, that's literally because it all starts external from you and something that you're not seeing. Again, folks, you have to remember this. Like, this is way more important than people realize, because if this is healthy, tends to be healthy. Your physical body will be healthier the healthier this is, because this brings the body into physical manifestation. It begins as biofields. Why? Because man biofield, woman biofield, merged their biofields, created another biofield generator, which was me. So I came in a manifestation through the merging of spherical. So the Vesica Pisces goes, hey, I like you, you like me. Their spheres merged and formed a new Vesica Pisces, which became a new biofield. And that's why it looks a little bit like a Vesica Pisces, does it not? If you think about it, one hemisphere is forming this side, the other hemisphere is forming the other side, right? Correct? And then your physical bodies in between. And so I would argue that that's what this is. We are all aether. We are, as human beings, we're spiritual beings. We're just resonating into frequency via light and the shared agreements and everything else like that. Hey, folks, I appreciate you saying that. Somebody just said, almost sounds like having a biblical spiritual seal, like mentioned in Revolution or something. Look, like I want this to me, folks, this is a spiritual discussion, but it's because like our survival relies upon understanding these things intrinsically. Like our culture cannot be stupid any longer. Like we must understand this. To me, this is so like maybe the same way that there's a lot of people that are Christian evangelicals that feel strongly about the word of God that way. If you ask me, folks, I don't feel like anything that I'm doing is radically different. I see this universal plasma field as God. That's what I personally think that it is. I think that everybody has this idea of what God's been through history, and they think they know, and they're certain that they have an idea like, well, I know the origin is based on this person related to this person related to this person. It's like, or it answers the question. It answers the universal question that all religions seem to be perpetually going around in circles, chasing their tails, chasing the tail of dogma, trying to answer. And again, it doesn't mean that they're not valid. It just means that there's different representations, echoes, harmonics of what the truth is that represents itself into reality for individuals based on their space-time reference, aka culture, race, continent, wherever they're from. That's going to influence the lore. And here's why I'm saying this to you guys. I'm getting a little off topic here, but it's because there's been a lot of talk about like who's the real like lost tribes of Israel. And I was trying to explain to my friend earlier, and I think they understand it already anyway, so I don't have to really convince them. But for you guys or whoever else, like, is it possible, you guys, that all these people who believe that they are the real, true, chosen ones, that they're not wrong, yet in a way they are because they don't get what I'm saying. If they got what I'm saying, they could be at peace with their sense of feeling like they're the ones because they could be within their space-time reference because they don't understand like I do, like I feel like I do. Again, I'm never 100% guys, but this is what I feel like is going on within our physical reality, that we are really just existing in shuffled timelines, that we have a whole series of dimensions effectively that were never intended to be mixed together, but now they are. And so we are merged into something that used to be kept separate. And so we were all perceiving space and time on different reference points within different dimensions, and we never crossed. And anybody who hopped on a ship and wound up someplace else, thousands of miles away or whatever else like that, they were a time traveler. They began the process of shuffling these space-time references and dimensions that we now exist in. And so now what we have is modernized air travel just accelerated this process where we have people everywhere, thousands, millions all over the world who've done this. They're time travelers. And just by virtue of sending information via satellite from one country to our country and our country to other countries, that's just another form of space-time hacking. And again, now we're just existing in this very bizarre world of space-time reference, dimensional shuffling that we just have to accept as just normal reality because it happens so fast that now we're a little bit like, something seems kind of like bizarrely self-organizing and weirdly dark matter-ish going on here. Well, yeah. I think there's a whole CERN debate and everything, guys. I don't want to go there right now. I'm already like 19, 20 minutes in here, and I should really be getting into maps. So get back to maps here. Okay, well, this is all relevant to the maps discussion, guys. So I don't. It's not like this is bad, okay? But so I say here in the title card, like esoteric maps research, why 33 degrees? It's because of exactly what I'm telling you guys. It's like, so esoteric societies that I think a lot of folks don't understand. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they're kind of spooky, and when you start digging deep into what they're doing, you start going, why do I feel like these groups kind of like were doing something where they could almost that like they were time traveling, where they knew something that they absolutely couldn't possibly know unless they had somebody like hinting them in on things. When you get deep into esoteric societies beyond Freemasons and Rosicrucians and things like that, and you start digging deep into their lore and their symbolism and start really studying these things, you go like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of groups out there, right up to whatever you want to say the Illuminati is, Gnostic or fake or whoever they really are, or whatever groups represent themselves as it. Most of them, if not all of them, who call themselves that, even if they're not the quote real ones, they have access to something that can make them appear to be the real ones, even if they're not actually chosen or selected or nobody would want them to be. And it's because what I'm just telling you involving what we exist in on this physical plane is highly manipulatable and editable via time loops. And so maps play heavily into that. And the way that streets are named and the way that monuments are placed and highways are named and markers are placed in various areas that involved groups like the Freemasons and involved secrecy. This is why I tell you guys, like, not everything the Freemasons were doing was always quote bad and evil. Like, I know for a fact, based on my research, there was a whole bunch of Masons that were keeping secrets relative to putting out what I've been told by a guy that comes from Masonic roots. He told me that they call them matrix markers, that's actually like a name that maybe it's a modernization of what they used to call it. I don't know. But that's what he told me they were. Because I told him I was finding these things all over the place that were marked with 33. And I'm like, dude, you have to understand, like, the way these things are arriving at me, there's like no way in hell somebody could have like planned it to where like they did this. And it's just not possible, guys. It's not something that technology would explain. Okay, here's an example. All right. There's a film called Buckaroo Banzai in the Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension or something like that, that involves, space time manipulation, bending space, like physical matter, like being able to go through portals and warps and things like that. And I've discussed it at length in earlier presentations. But the thing is, guys, like when I was traveling around Southern California, part of what I do is, to make it, I enjoy doing it. And so I share it with people on my channel. I go to places that are where obscure 80s films and other 70s, 80s, mostly 70s, 80s, and 90s films that I've watched in repetition on videotape. I oftentimes will visit these locations because I believe that there's something that goes on when, like, I was living on it near a nuclear reservation as a child, right? And one of the only forms that we had for entertainment in this rural area we lived in by the reservation was a VCR that my mom got. She actually went out and got like a video player so we could actually go rent videotapes from the corner store back in 1985. And so I have this theory that there was something going on in that specific place, that farm that we were in, that all the experiences I had in the 5 years I lived on that farm, including the movies that I watched in repetition on magnetic tape, on VHS tape, that there's something going on where there's that it created these bizarre magnetic space-time reference loops that I can almost like tap into informationally. It's bizarre how much like I'll give you an example what I'm talking about. I can watch a film like that I saw dozens of times in the 80s, like John Hughes movies that I watched a lot, or good examples. Chevy Chase films are filled with these markers where bizarre things happen where I'm in the middle of watching it and there's a synchronicity to the storyline, or there's a strange line in it where I'm going, why would somebody even write that? Because it's almost like what they just wrote references something that's happening to me right at this moment that I'm watching the movie. And this would happen to me like a lot, especially with Chevy Chase movies, and especially with Chevy Chase movies that I watched in repetition, like a lot. bizarrely today, Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo have been doing these posts together on Twitter. They must be doing some kind of reunion of the National Lampoon Vacation series, which is really cool. But all right. So I'm just going to get into the maps here and everything like that. And I'm going to start with this article because this was the area that I just contracted in. So the reason why I kind of did this whole spiel about the energy loops and whatever is because what I have as far as psi energy things go is, I don't want to say it's like psychometry because that has like a lot stronger. I think people who have psychometry going on have a little bit of a different thing going on than I do. But I definitely sense things when I'm in physical locations, and so whatever that translates to, I tend to be drawn to them almost magnetically. So it's not just when I'm there I sense things, like just my experience in daily life draws me to places magnetically that wind up having significance and relevance. How I wind up there and the process through which it happens sometimes is so bizarrely, things that I had almost no control over in many cases, that it's really weird how I oftentimes synchronize to movie locations, for example. I'll realize later on that I just crossed one. The funniest thing is guys, like I was just watching Naked Gun earlier, because again, that's a movie between 1985 and 1990 that I watched in Eastern Washington near the farm. And that film in particular, and it's, sorry guys, it's a little bit crude, and I don't mean sorry to the ladies, because I'm not trying to be that way, or and I'm not trying to do this for a chuckle's sake, but even though it's kind of funny. But there's this scene in The Naked Gun. I was driving in Southern California about a year and a half ago, and it was weird because I was thinking specifically about somebody at that moment, and that there was a woman, and she, to be honest with you, she is curvy, has some pretty good curves on her, and the character in the film Naked Gun, there's a scene in it, and it's played tonight. That's why I got reminded of this. Well, I was driving in Southern California, kind of near, I can't remember exactly where I was. It was kind of near Carlsbad area, I think. Point is, there's a nuclear facility out there that they used in the filming of Naked Gun. And as I was experiencing something kind of similar to the character that Leslie Nielsen was, and again, I watched Naked Gun over and over again. It made me laugh my ass off. I've seen it tons of times, and it synchronizes really weirdly in multiple situations that I've been in. Because again, guys, I have a theory on why Naked Gun specifically does it. But anyways, crap. Why is this? It's all flying right out of my head here. This entire story. Like, why is that happening to me at this moment? This sucks, guys. I just had this whole thing going on with Naked Gun. Okay, yeah. So the nuclear plant. So there's an opening part of the film where his partner is telling him, like, Frank, you got to move on. She found somebody else, and he goes, I don't know what it is. It just seems like everywhere I go, something reminds me of her. And then they're driving past the highway, and it's this nuclear facility where it just, honestly, guys, just looks like two huge breasts propped straight up. I mean, there's no other way to communicate what this nuclear plant looks like. If you've seen the movie Naked Gun, you know what scene I'm probably talking about. It's in the very early in the movie. It's in the first like 10 minutes. But I was actually something like that. I had something kind of like that going on, not like the same situation as the character, but just where I was just thinking of somebody while I was driving down the highway. And it made me laugh out loud because I looked over to the side and I'm going, oh my God, like that is the scene from Naked Gun. And like it's happening, and it's like, it's almost like, it's like the screenwriter knew wrote it in. Not that it happened that way, but it's just, it makes you laugh out loud as to how synchronistic it is. And it's the type of thing that for me has been happening to me so long now that I now kind of like go, okay, I have to do something here. So then I wind up filming like a clip. I actually did a clip next to that nuclear facility where I show people the facility or whatever. And I think I just make a joke. I don't even like stay there very long or give a long history of it. I think I go like, just seems like everywhere I go, something reminds me of her, like just like Leslie Nielsen does. And guys, the strange thing is that I learned like in the last year, um, when I had a little bit more time to like hang out and I wasn't like kind of scrambling around. I was watching a lot of classic television, and I noticed that Leslie Nielsen, the guy that was in Airplane and Naked Gun, those of you familiar with those series, like he did a ton of things in like the 50s and 60s that were like close to Alfred Hitchcock and things like that, and like Twilight Zone type series. Not that specifically. It might have been, I think he actually did do Twilight Zone, but he was in these other series, like science fiction series. And they're very predictive in nature. And quite a few of them, like they seem like they were actually filmed then, like a time capsule for somebody to understand in the year 2022. It was chilling, some of the things that Leslie Nielsen did as dramatic work. And he's really good, guys. Like, if you've only seen him as a comedic actor, it would like behoove you to like actually check out when he does something serious, because he actually can put off a really good quality performance. He even said part of what, there you go, Outer Limits. Yeah, things like Outer Limits, guys. I've actually covered on this channel. If you've never, look up Outer Limits, do a video search on Outer Limits on my channel, if you haven't, because you'll notice I've done quite a bit of analysis on that. That's connected to like Henry Silva and some other actors. And again, the weird thing is, guys, Outer Limits has heavy connections to timeline films that I've personally identified that were made in the 80s that I strongly feel have a secondary purpose, that they weren't just put there as entertainment. They were put there as a time capsule that was meant to be unlocked at a later date. I think a lot of people, they call this something like, they call it predictive programming and things like that. But I think it's more complicated than that, you guys. I think that some people were doing things of that nature because they understand the nature of how we manifest things in the physical reality. That when you get a whole bunch of people, like if you can get a whole bunch of people by putting like entertainment out to believe that in the year 2000 or in the year 2012 or whatever the markers have been, they were always going for it, guys. Did you notice this? Anytime there was any lore behind there being major disasters, Hollywood rushed in to go like, yeah, it's going to be tons of earthquakes and it's going to be tornadoes and it's going to be massive tsunamis and it's going to take out coastlines and it's going to like, guys, if I believe that, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I mean, personally. But I'm just saying, guys, it's like, it's ridiculous how much they program that kind of disaster mentality into people to try to like trigger the event. Because if you ask me, yeah, these things are psychoenergetic in nature. Everything that involves human brainwave can influence the plasma field. If you can influence the plasma field, you can influence weather. Guys, if what I just said people think is bullshit, then go look up what HARP is. And let's just look up what HARP is if you want to, but I don't want to go there right now. But if you feel like doing it on your own, look up what HARP is, go Control F or whatever the control find is, on your browser, and then just look up the word plasma. And you're going to see that there's entire parts of what HARP does where its function is to aim extremely low frequency waveforms into the ionosphere and bend plasma fields. They actually form balls of plasma in the ionosphere. Guys, that is HARP fucking with manifesting physical reality using the universal plasma field. When you do that, you're gathering things in such a way, and it's a very precise and artificial, where the very nature of what they're doing with that device displaces plasma in other locations and causes disruptions. I would argue things that do what HARP does, things that do what CERN does, have a similar effect on human condition, ionospheric condition, and Earth resonance. They all do things that interfere in ways that really should be investigated further in a more honest way. I think right now it's just there's too many people that immediately point a finger at it and go, because bad, and they won't come up with a reason why it might be. They just say that because it is. And I'm telling you guys that I really feel like this is something that kind of, it's not just that it's said. I mean, I get things from the sidelines, sure, but this actually is something that resonates strongly with me as being part of what's changing things. And so you find things that are called matrix markers in maps. And that's when my life started to get very, very weird about 5 or 6 years ago, because Hollywood films, sorry guys, Hollywood films very frequently had these markers in them where literally films from my childhood that I watched in repetition and I really loved, as I started reviewing them as an adult, I was learning that they had things like GPS coordinates contained in them in ways that weren't always obvious. In some cases, you have to study the film very, very closely. The characters don't just go, yeah, the GPS coordinates are. No, it'll be something more like a character goes like, give me the coordinates. And they don't say it audibly, but the person will hand them a document and then the camera floats over their shoulder for like half a second. And then if you freeze frame on the image, you'll notice that they give real life GPS coordinates. And so my path of this whole information sensing and remote sensing thing began with studying films from my childhood and actually plugging in GPS coordinates, addresses, like things within the fictional storyline to see if it ever had matches in physical reality. And the results were very, very interesting. I found very frequently that guys, like weird shit, like the movie Real Genius has some real life GPS coordinates and real addresses. When you punch in one of the real addresses from the 1985 film Real Genius, it actually maps to a town called San Jacinto. Now, guys, that tripped me out a little bit because I love the film, Real Genius. I've watched it way over 100 times. It might even be into the 200 time range, guys. I've watched it so many times. And what I'm telling you is that that film, when I plugged in that address, it mapped to San Jacinto, California. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the career of the singer Peter Gabriel, bearing in mind I'm Gabriel Cruz. Peter Gabriel, one of his early tracks from his career was named, of all things, San Jacinto, the exact name of the town that Real Genius maps to. And his name is Peter Gabriel. It was even trippier because the highway intersection that's right there just to the south of where that address is two numbered highways. And the two numbers equal my exact birthday, the day, the month, and the year where the two highways intersect. So I had to start asking, does space-time manipulation exist? Were matrix markers placed by Freemasons and other groups? Space-time manipulation, I do believe, does exist. I do believe there's both malevolent and benevolent. Quite a few benevolent, though, and people don't give them enough credit. There's quite a few benevolent Freemasons that were involved with this. However, anytime there's something like this, it's like Biff with the Gray's Almanac of sports, turning himself into a multi-billionaire from the sports bets. I mean, the temptation to be that person in any group or any organization when you get to a certain high level becomes very tempting. So I think that's why these groups function through ignorance the way that they do. I think there are some very high level people that know exactly what this timeline thing is. But I think others are just expected to perform tasks, almost like The Godfather. It's like, don't ask any fucking questions. Just do the thing where you're supposed to, when you're supposed to, because it's important, and not many people can know about this. All right, I get it. Not making excuses or arguments for the secrecy, guys. Just saying, like, there's alternative reasons for why some things happen or exist, and this is kind of where my research has led me. Okay, that it's not entirely evil, but again, guys, that doesn't mean that people didn't put their hand in the cookie jar or try to take a little extra or just totally try to rig it in their favor and, or for their families or whatever. Obviously that happened with some folks. I've gone at great length discussing that exact problem, so we won't go there tonight. So what this is right here is basically kind of showing you the remote sensing element of what goes on with me. Now, this location is Astoria, and that's the Astoria column. And I've done articles at the Astoria column. I've hiked the Astoria column. I can show you my footage of hiking the Astoria column if you like, although it's not terribly, well, it is kind of relevant to tonight's discussion, but it would take too much time. But I just want to get this map thing going here. I'm going to only play about half of this one before I move on to some of the other ones, so I can just show you these map correlations without me just going blah, blah, blah. It's really cool to actually be able to visualize the Google Earth images and see how I run azimuth lines and things like that if you're not familiar with how to do it. if you are familiar with how to do it, then this will just be a cool way for you to be able to like replicate my results. And I would also say that if there's any folks out there that ever question like what my research is and say like, hey, I think that's bullshit, maybe, or you don't have to approach me that way. You could just say like, hey, you know what? I think that's interesting, and I would like to verify it. Could you send me a KMZ or a KML file with your findings? I would be happy to. Like things like that, I don't have any issues with doing for folks. If I'm showing it to you publicly, there's really no harm in giving somebody a copy of how you can what I'm telling you guys is it's basically a way to take the lines and the marker points in Google Earth, and you can just double click on it, and if you have the Google Earth app on your phone or on your computer, it'll auto open the map and place all my markers on your map. And so I've developed like more databases than I can count that have different summaries of different data points. Some just involve my research that involve, corruption and things like that, that are more like physical layer things. And then I have other things that are more esoteric map research involving Hollywood filming locations. So like there's times where I could actually give you like just one file that shows you like where tons of things were filmed, like all over the world. Films like The Godfather, films like all the Fletch series, and I mean even the most obscure thing, Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. Trying to think of like some of the ones I've mapped. I mean, you get tons of things like that, guys. All these Clint Eastwood movies I've done, like Any Which Way You Can, Any Which Way But Loose, things like that, guys. You'd be surprised at, at how many of them involve esoteric locations that had occult significance. I mean, it would trip you out. I mean, even the most benign movies that just seem like a stupid movie involving, you know, Clyde the ape, and or the orangutan, and Ruth Gordon as his grandma, and things like that. These silly movies involving Clint Eastwood oftentimes had some other things going on within them that were pretty esoteric in nature and pretty, I think, benevolent. Oftentimes, at least that's been how the information has resonated with me. Quite a few of these films actually had some things that actually informed me and gave me some clues, but they're almost never the ones they get credit for it. See, and that's the thing I found really interesting, guys. There's times where I really feel like what some movies were doing was not dropping clues. They were trying to do what some people call predictive programming. Um, but I would argue that to take it a step further and just saying that they were trying to manifest, they were planting suggestions and manifestations to get an event to happen. But some of that could possibly also involve the prediction modeling or the understanding that the event is going to happen and people being informed that it's going to happen. And so then, yeah, the quote predictive programming aspect would just be to sort of like backdoor as many people in the collective consciousness into just sort of accepting that this event's going to happen, and then boom, it'll manifest into physical reality. Trippy because we're all wizards, whether we want to accept it or not. That's what people do. That's the psychoenergetic process of the human brain. Everybody's doing it constantly. All right, so I'll get this going here. You guys mean there's no sound? Hey, can anybody else tell me if they're getting sound or not? Because there's sound playing out of my speakers into the microphone, so it shouldn't be any different. Is it just the noises, or is anybody else having the same problem? Because I'm not hearing anybody else chime in. Because this has all been playing audio while that screen's been on for like the last minute. So if you weren't hearing anything, then because I'm going to keep it playing. See, like if you're hearing me now, there's no reason why you shouldn't hear this because it's playing through the same mic. So that doesn't make any sense. Okay, cool. All right. Just making sure. All right. Thanks. Let me know if you can still hear it. Huh. I've never had this problem, guys. Can you hear me now? How about now when I'm on the screen in the corner? Can I get any feedback now that I'm in the corner here? Because it may have to do with like you can, yeah, okay. So it has to do with whether or not my image is on the screen. That's some bullshit. Okay, guys, that's bullshit. Let me tell you why. I've done this. I've played this exact clip live before, and yes, I'm aware that the audio volume is a little bit on the low side, but the speaker and the microphone are right next to each other, so it's turned all the way up and it's playing directly into the mic. So there's just no way in hell that could be happening unless somebody's doing something to rig it. That's impossible. That I'm telling you guys, it's not like this is because see, it's one thing if this application just simply won't insert like a video clip into the application properly, and that's not how I do it. I'm just using a share screen and I'm playing the audio into the same microphone that I'm speaking into right now. And I can hear myself and I can hear this clip. So the microphone should be able to hear both. So if you're telling me you can't hear this one, that's some bullshit. I'm not saying you're lying to me. I'm saying that like some rigging's going on. That makes zero sense. Low is one thing. Not at all is a whole nother. Well, here, let me do this then, guys. See, this heavily involves like the history of the asters, and I got it from um, what do you want to call it? Biblioteca is one of those websites I think in Spain that basically just kind of gives you like a whole rundown of John Jacob Astor and his whole history involving the creation of Astoria, his involvement with the Committee of 300, how he became a member of the Masons really fast and accelerated through all of these different ranks. And they kind of basically say that he pissed off everybody. He kind of just dominated all the fur trade once he came to Astoria, and nobody else even could like get in on it. So that's kind of what I get into with the audio on that maps clip. I don't know why you can't hear it. We'll try another one here in a second to see if it's consistent with all of them. If it is, then there's something going on. But let's just go to the maps aspect of this so we can just get right down to it. So this is Astoria, okay? And that blue line you see there is a 33-degree line. So I can actually just play the audio and just all right. So I don't know who can hear or whatever right now. So I'm just going to do this. Yeah, I understand that part now. So I'm just going to like narrate it. I just had to get to the point where I have no idea why you guys can't hear that. That's so bizarre, but I don't want to keep dwelling on it because it'll just waste time. So I'll just narrate it. So you got this right here, guys, where, oh, wait, I got to have myself on the screen, I guess. This is so fucked up. I don't think I'm going to get this. I'm going to like abandon this StreamYard shit because this shouldn't be happening. If it's that easily hackable, I'll use something else. But basically, you can hear me now, though, right? Get a thumbs up. Okay. What I'm showing you here, guys, is the line tool inside Google Earth, where if you go into Google Earth and up to the top of the screen, this right here where you see my mouse circling around, that's the ruler tool. And you click on that ruler tool, and then you place like a little pinpoint wherever you want to like begin. Okay. You place that pinpoint tool wherever you want to like set your center point. And so like if you're on a monument like a column or an obelisk or a pyramid, you'd go to the very center of it, and then you would get out your ruler tool and you would begin drawing your energy lines to determine like where are the alignments. So if you want to see if somebody built something, like a mason for example built an alignment that's 33 degrees, that's why it's worth knowing. Now you see, guys, like how many people will just spook you out of the concept of 33 and never explain what I just said to you, and then it just draws this negative association when somebody says 33 to you, where you just go like, oh gross, Freemason, or they're just hinting at something, or I bet they're one of those Illuminati people, or I bet they're just bragging about being a master mason, blah 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 blah. Well, I think there's some of that going on, and some people do it for those reasons. But see, I don't. I don't do it for those reasons. I just understand that the number 33 is a marker that's been used going back to before even you could even say the word Freemason, before people were even communicating it that way. Three was a way to communicate. Just the number three in and of itself was a way to communicate something way deeper, and a way to set markers. Triangles, pyramidal structures, three-sided pyramids that aim in certain directions, a three-sided pyramid that aims at 33.33 degrees in its alignment. Sometimes like you'll have a pyramidal structure, right? It's like in its dimensional structure, that when you see the way, when you look at it from the top looking down, there's alignments that go like 33 degrees on one of the lines, or 303 degrees, or 333.33 degrees. Masons didn't build those. Okay. Nazis didn't build them. Bad, evil mafia hitmen didn't do it. I'm saying, guys, is like whatever they're telling you now that the number 33 means, it's a false association. It's a borrowed association. It's somebody that's trying to change the definition of something that pre-existed them because they're using it as a momentum play. It's an energetic momentum play. It's a way to steal something's meaning change it to their own, so that all the people that used it before them, now they can steal the meaning. Think about it. If a whole bunch of people out there threw up 13s for a long time and it actually meant good luck, then all a mafia's got to do is to get you to fear them using the number 13, and then get you to always draw negative associations to the number 13. Now they have changed the meaning of something that pre-existed their use of it. So say there was, like, for centuries, a whole bunch of people out there that were dropping 13 for good luck. Well, all those people that did that work, hoping you would know that it meant that, now have had the meaning changed because somebody has just, like, gotten in your face with a whole new definition that's made you change what you think of it. And it drew power and it gave influence to who and what. People that use 13 for their mafias, people that use 13 for their gangs, people that use 13 to make you scared on Friday the 13th because it's a good energy harvesting day. All the people that just stay inside going, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to sit here and be afraid of 13. Well, guess what? You know how much energy you're giving to people that you really would never give it to? It's throwing bions out there and associating it in a negative way to 13, which influences them. It gives them power. It gives all their groups power. The more you're afraid of it. So drop the fear. Like, like the more you can actually understand the psychoenergetic process, the more you can actually go like, yeah, you're right. These are all things that are literally mental voodoo. I can just simply be not afraid of it. There's absolutely, like, superstition is gone. Gone. It's gone. There's no need to be superstitious. There's no need to, like, go, well, I see that number, I'm not going there. Oh, I see that street, I'm not going down that street. A lot of people live in that kind of fear mechanism. COVID was introducing a whole new form of it. There's for 2 or 3 years. I was having this conversation with this guy the other day because, like where I'm at now, a lot of people out here have been inside all this time. That's kind of hard for folks like us who have just been, like, just living our lives the entire time it's been going on. It's hard to imagine that. But there are, in fact, some people that are still out there that, like, they're just now coming out of their apartments and houses and they're wearing their masks everywhere. And they're around here, guys. They're outside wearing masks, walking around outside on sidewalks and streets wearing masks, like, and scared to death and wanting to go right back to their houses and homes. Fear. And the word that is associated with that fear is actually something that means life energy, a corona, a glow. It's what I just showed you. When I calibrate the instrument that takes those biofield readings, it produces a perfect circular corona. And I promise you that has nothing to do with an illness or a disease. It has everything to do with measuring a life force. But what have they done successfully is they've changed the definition. Well, this is going to really F up my ability to do maps if it's not going to play audio. But I just wanted to show you this one really quick so you can kind of see one energy line and how it kind of works. Because, like, this Astoria column, guys, was just one of the different locations that I found these, like, trippy alignments to. Another one was in Richland, Washington, near the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. And that building you see there with the blue lines on it is a free Masonic lodge. And I can zoom in on it here. What I'll do is if you guys are having trouble hearing it, I'm just going to narrate it this way. And so that's, like, one of the Mason lodges that has been near the Hanford Nuclear Reservation for a long time. And guys, I would say that when you're talking about Mason lodges of significance, this is definitely one of them. Now, its architecture isn't particularly, like, when you approach it, it doesn't look like it's that big a deal. It looks like it's almost, I'm not trying to downplay it or anything else like that, but from all external appearances, it's like one of the more basic looking Masonic buildings. But it definitely has some trippy alignments. And if you go out there, this street actually runs north and south right here. So I have the map rotated about 90 degrees. And so this is actually, pointing west here, and this is east here. Okay. And so what you see with this red line is where everything gets trippy. So the blue lines represent The one that's at an angle is 33. It's actually rotated, folks. That's why it looks off. So in all truth, if this were facing north, the 33-degree line is going this way. But the reason why I have it rotated, let me just go back so you can see what it looked like before. So I'm not just, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is what the actual alignment looks when you're going like north and south. So it's kind of hard to see right now because it's mid animation. So it's kind of fuzzy. Crap. Go back. There we go. Okay. Let me zoom in again. So what you're looking at here then is the one blue line that's just going left and right. That's actually west and east. So the west facing line, guys, what's trippy about this Masonic lodge is that Astoria column I just showed you, and I explained this in the article. It aligns on that west facing line. So Astoria column, which is damn near the coast and hundreds of miles away from this, it aligns pretty spot on, and that's kind of strange. I'm like, really? You just draw a line straight out there and it goes right to the Astoria column. Trippy. Okay. Where else does it go? Well, when you draw the 33-degree line, it okay, the 33-degree line is notable, fine, right? But it's really this one that heads in the other direction. So this line you see like right here, if you're right in the center where the head point of the lodge is, again, that's 90 degrees heading this way. That's 270 degrees going west. If I did have a line running north, it would be like going just straight up like this. Obviously, 180 would be straight south. So what you're looking at with these angled lines, these are the ones that some people call Masonic lines. And I would argue that the one that's at an angle here, it's not Masonic, but it was used by the Masons. So that made it Masonic. Hope that it makes sense. You know, guys, when you look at their symbol, the compass, that's this, right? Let's take a look at that really quick, right? So, you know, guys, am I right or am I right about at least some of this, right? Can we agree? A lot of this is about angles. In fact, if you look at those things, it's damn near like they're showing you the same angle, but I don't know. I've never really sat down and measured every single Masonic symbol angle. That'd probably be worth doing because I've done it with other things. Um, at any rate, the point is that that's the method that you're using. So think about this one that you're seeing going 33 degrees. Okay, so anytime you're going to go opposite from your center point, right? If you're trying to maintain that trajectory, you're going to go 180 degrees in the opposite from that same point. So 33 is this way, 180, add 180 degrees to it, you're going to go due south from the 33-degree line. That's going to be 213 degrees. All right. Now, then I rotate the map in this clip so that you can see it from a different direction. So now you're seeing it with now the west facing line looks like it's north. Okay, that's why this is a little bit confusing. But the reason why I rotate it is so you can kind of see what Masons do. You know how I showed you that thing, right? Going back to this, why do they do things like this? Well, I'm going to show you. See how there's these intersecting lines like this and the way they add these two angles together? Check this shit out. This is going to blow your mind. If you've never seen this before, I always have a trouble like articulating this. When you go here, okay, so I rotate the map back, right? Now it's facing north, south, you know, like the proper orientation again. And you'll observe there's that blue line that's heading west. Now you have the Masonic or the ancient 33 to 13-degree alignment, you know, mapped in as well. Now look what happens when I split the difference. Now I'm going to go back. See this red line here? What I did basically is I just took the math of the 270-degree line. I deducted the 213-degree line to create the center line between the Masonic line and the west facing line. And that gave me this red line. And guys, when I interviewed with Miles, this blew him away. I was like, dude, I got to show you this. So this, like, and Miles Johnston's dad, he told me in one of my interviews with him that was is a Freemason. So he was like, like, wow. I mean, that even made him do that. Okay. And I know that dude sees a lot of like crazy shit and everything like that. I may have my differences with Miles and everything like that, but there's some things like that that I think he's a worthwhile barometer for measuring whether or not something is or isn't. Depending on how much it piques his interest at times. But yeah, this one definitely got his interest, I noticed. And so when since his dad was a Mason, right? And I don't know that many people that I've been able to run this by who would openly tell me, like in physical whatever in front of me or whatever in public interviews, that they have the Masonic associations. It's mostly been in private conversations. I did have like one relative actually approach me and tell me that they were in the Masons back in the 70s and they were in a significant role in the Masons too. And they know a lot of things. Yeah. So again, guys, so the noises says the angle of those lines look like the St. Andrew's cross, which is the Scottish flag. Scottish Rite Temple has a 33 degrees. So again, yes, guys, I agree. And so what I've been trying to say to folks is that there's another meaning to it, right? There's always layers of meaning to things. So sure, I get it. 33 degrees does make a person a master mason. It's a level of attainment. But I would argue that the secret within Freemasons is that you're not a 33-degree Mason unless you understand this exact thing that I'm discussing. If this does not arrive at you and you don't just begin to understand it, you're not a master Mason. I believe this is a vital part of their teachings and learnings. And it's like one day you begin to just map it in. I don't know how or why. I know for me, I can do it all over the place. I can map you some crazy shit all over the place that's going to blow your mind exactly like this is about to. Okay. Check this shit out. Sorry, I don't mean to keep cursing, guys, but this blows me away. So you have your north, south, east, west lines. So I'm just visibly showing you the west facing, east facing lines combined with the 33-degree to 13-degree Masonic lines. Then when you notice here, the difference is this red line. Okay. Now this is in Richland, Washington. Now that red line, I'm going to show you where it leads to, guys, and this will absolutely blow you away. That red line goes straight to a replica of Stonehenge that is on the Washington and Oregon border that is many, many miles away. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but easily over 100 miles away. And it aligns perfectly. And these two monuments, the Masonic Lodge was probably built maybe in the 50s at the earliest, maybe earlier, but like the 40s possibly. It could have been the 40s, 1940s. But that Stonehenge was built decades before then. So it almost seems like the Masons either chose their lodge to have an alignment with that, or it might have happened at a completely subconscious level in ways that we don't even understand yet. And I'm open to that. But when you see this, guys, it'll blow you away. Because remember, I basically, the way I produced this was using the known Masonic lore of 33 degrees, splitting the difference between that Masonic line and the true West line to form this arrow that points out towards the Washington-Oregon border. Now I'm going to play it forward a little bit. I zoom out. Then I follow the line. All right, this is where I show you specifically what I'm telling you about here. Sorry it took so long, guys. So there it is. And now I just rotate the map. It's not like a true north thing. Now I'm just rotating it to show you, remember, guys, I'm basically giving you the method, right? See what I'm doing? I mean, I'm showing you. I am showing you. Sorry, I don't mean it like that. Like, I don't want to be to sound obnoxious. It's just like, this is like the big secret, is all I'm telling you. Like, it's not that big of a secret. So I'll just animate it here and let it go while I talk. You can't hear it anyway. So I'll just narrate it with my own voice. So I'm showing you that that's the 213 degree, 33-degree Masonic line there with the mouse, and then that's the center of the Masonic lodge. I go zoom back into it, and then again, right here is the west facing line. So this one is the difference between these two lines, exactly in the middle. Now watch where it goes. It's better when you see it animated and I don't interrupt it. See how far away it is? This goes all the way out. You got to zoom way the hell out till you get right to where Columbia River is in the Columbia River Gorge, and it goes right, straight, straight, straight. Look at this. Look at this. Right to the Stonehenge, you guys. That is right to the Mary Hill Stonehenge. Oh, this mind was blown. I could not stop looking. This was like everything involved, like not done. And I guys, I find these things all the time. Like this is just one of many. I'm helping you guys understand. Like this is just a drop in the bucket. I've got so many examples that are like just this precise, where you're going, wait a second, those things were built hundreds of years apart. And I go, I know. And I'd be like, I don't really know how they did that. Because the technology didn't exist sometimes to get all of these things aligned. Trippy, isn't it? So when you go to this humble Masonic lodge in Richland, Washington, the west facing line goes to the Astoria column, where I've done a whole series of articles. The 213-degree line, the 33, the Masonic line, when you go north at 33 degrees, it runs right into the farm that I lived on. When you run the south Masonic line, it goes right to a house that both my parents lived in and I lived in very briefly in Central Oregon near Bend. See down there, that blue line, it goes to Central Oregon. So I lived down there. I lived north of there, right on that Masonic line. I have lived on that line, guys, and I didn't really choose those places. Like those were places that my parents chose to live. I didn't choose to live there. I mean, yeah, I selected to live with them one time, to move in with them for a few months, but that was like that was a long time ago. And again, like it wasn't like I was the one that bought the property and said, yes, I'm putting on a mason line. No, it was like all these are all things that were done external from me. So I was even wondering like how this happened. So when you look at this whole chart here, what you're seeing here, all these blue lines on the right, that's the Richland Masonic Lodge. That west facing line goes right to where that blue dot is. That's the Astoria column, where I did articles at both locations. Not I actually haven't done anything at the Richland Masonic Lodge yet, but I have done many articles at the Mary Hill Stonehenge. And I've shown people the relevance of the Mary Hill Stonehenge, because the Mary Hill Stonehenge has links to all over the place. You guys, if you draw a line at 33 degrees from the Mary Hill Stonehenge center point, it goes to the Vatican. It goes right to the Vatican. No joke. It goes right to where the needle is in the Vatican. There's so many alignments that I find like this, you guys, that it's just mind blowing. And then let me see if I can find like one that'll actually play the audio of it, because what's trippy is, so I find all these articles, guys, right now. If that ain't enough to like convince you like something kind of weird is going on, because again, that red line goes straight to the Mary Hill Stonehenge, and I did a whole bunch of articles there. I've done stories there. I can show you my videos if you want. Okay, so let's skip past this one. And then here's my weird connection to the Ghost Adventures thing, because the head of um, Ghost Adventures is this guy Zach Bagans, right? And again, it's I watched Ghost Adventures for a while before I knew anything about the spiritual things involving supernatural things. I mean, I didn't know really anything except that like surface level things. I was curious about it, but I'd mostly consumed junk food type material about these types of things, right? And so watching something like Ghost Adventures was almost kind of impressive to me at the time because they were actually using scanners and different types of equipment. And so I thought to myself, even if some of it is like bunk methods or it's hackable methods, it's still something that I want to watch to either figure out how they're faking it or just like I want to know why it works. I wasn't like, going out of my way to say it was one thing or the other. I just wanted to kind of know which one it was. And I just kind of learned that yeah, some of it I could easily dismiss as being like frequency hacks, especially things that involve like audible voices and words that are inputted into devices. Like, to me, those are all things that are done on these types of shows that I know how somebody that, even if the people that were producing the show and actually collecting the evidence, they could be convinced themselves that they're collecting real evidence, and there could be a bunch of people on the sidelines just saying things into microphones and tuning into frequencies to fuck with them, and I would know how to do that personally, you know. Not like the exact way, but I'm just saying, like, whenever I look into their methods, I start to think about reverse engineering it. Like, okay, if I was trying to trick this person, how would I do it? Oh, well, yeah, they're just scanning for this frequency. You just have to get something where you could have a microphone generate a frequency, make it audible within the range that they're sweeping in. Case it's done, right? You got it, right? So it wouldn't be a difficult thing to trick these guys, but something happened within the demon house thing that I found a little bit more compelling than average. And that was something that Zach Bagan's like, well, maybe I'll just play the article, guys, and then you tell me like within 30 seconds if you can or can't hear it, please. I'm gonna like just let me know like right away if you can hear it. So I'm gonna play this and then see, just tell me right, I'm gonna play it right now. Oh man. Can you guys hear that? Can you give me a thumbs up one way or the other if you heard all the audio that was playing through there? Because you should have been hearing audio on the intro there. Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? Bueller? All right, I'm just going to play it then. And if you guys start telling me otherwise, then I'll just have to change it, I guess. But This makes no sense, you guys. This makes no sense, you guys. I'm being hacked. This makes zero fucking sense. There is no way in fucking hell this could be happening. I am playing the audio straight into the microphone. There is like no way this could be happening without some kind of fuckery. I have done this way the entire time I have done presentations. This makes zero sense. I just even verified it on my own phone. There's no audio playing, and that's fucking impossible. Unbelievable, you guys. Unbelievable. What are we going to do? I can't even, guys, do you understand how obscene this is? I can't even give a presentation involving maps. I'm suddenly surrounded with all kinds of bullshit that wasn't around me before, and now I'm having trouble doing live presentations. Interesting. I'm going to leave that for those who keep an eye on me to figure out. Very weird that I cannot play audio into this microphone. That makes no sense. It is coming from this makes no sense. Hello, hello, hello. I'm besides myself, guys, on what the fuck to do here. This makes no sense. There is no way this could be happening without me being hacked on some level, because I'm literally just taking the audio from the clip and putting it, and it has the same audible frequency as my fucking voice. So when I play it, it should be just going right into the same microphone as my voice. So it's being filtered out. Now, you explain to me how that's happening. My voice, they're literally filtering it out. It's being filtered out. It is being artificially filtered out. It plays right into the microphone, I promise you. That's how this works. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm just going share screen, okay? Present. Richland, Washington, just a few miles away from Hanford Nuclear Reservation. It also has very esoteric connections. Again, you line up the line at 33 degrees and 213 degrees. And I also did one that goes east and west too. So it's interesting that this Freemason Lodge lines up for me personally. It lines up to the 33 degree line where I went to school and everything like that. But so yeah, you'll see that I kind of did like a 33 degree line and a 90 degree line here. And then if you kind of rotate the map though, and you split the difference between that 213 degree, 33 degree line, right? And the one that faces towards the Astoria column, you go directly in between them.
I did another article on this, and I talked about this in my Miles Johnson with the Basis Project interview just recently. It goes right to Stonehenge. It's a replica of Stonehenge. It was built by Sam Hill. He was kind of a Quaker legend out here in Washington and Oregon area. Built a lot of legendary monuments and things like that, and along the Washington-Oregon border, and it's beautiful out there. It's the Columbia River Gorge, but has a lot of significance. It's up on a hilltop. You can see there's the Stonehenge, right? So I just think this helps kind of help people, understand why mystic societies, people like the Freemasons, study these things. There's something to it. We can all kind of roll our eyes at it, but sometimes when you can assign numbers to it and it's very specific and it's consistent, you can do it over and over again. Like this, see, this Mason Lodge lines up perfectly with the farm we had, my schools, my elementary school, my junior high and high school there. So anyways, you follow that line 90 degrees over, right? I don't know if it's exactly 90, right? So it's kind of has the whatever. You have to draw the heading, then just keep running it as long for whatever. But you notice it lines up with the demon house perfectly. Well, not quite perfectly, but it's like nearly right on it within blocks. I mean, like you could walk to it from where the line is. It's pretty amazing, huh? So yeah, I mean, it's just things like that, if you start working with ley line, grid energy, map energy, start studying things involving Freemasons. And I'm not a Freemason, by the way. I've never joined her, and I've never been recruited or anything like that. I just studied some of the things involving angles and azimuth and angles and azimuths, excuse me, things like that. But yeah, check this out. This is where you get to at the Demon House, and you can look at this in Google Earth and kind of zoom in on it. And this is the way I do a lot of my kind of esoteric map work. I guess you could say my research. It's not really work; it's just research that I do, and I follow these types of lines, and it's all, it's difficult to explain, but there's almost always real data correlations to it. So all I try to do is say, okay, I notice that somebody on this energy line that I know to be relevant for energetics, he has experienced, these very low ELF ranges, and a lot of people claim that they experience quote unquote possessions. So I think that, especially on Halloween here, I think what this kind of demonstrates to us is that there is really a scientific bridge that we can cross here between the paranormal, some of these radio frequency principles, and, things involving mystic societies like the Freemasons. There's something these people knew and studied as science, as what it was, and before, we were taught a lot of false sciences. So I think people just really need to open their minds up a little bit more to these things. And, if anybody wants to join me in that, I'm trying to just research these types of things and have some fun, but also get some answers to these things, because I believe people. I mean, I've seen it. I think that you can have things where people can experience possessions, and there can be many reasons for it. And it's not always because of something that's faith-based or religion. It can have entirely to do with energy that's on a ley line or grid energy line. And if you start studying these things more intrinsically, you'll understand there's a real science to it, and it's nothing to be mocked or made fun of. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody on Halloween, and have a good time out there. Try not to try not to hurt each other. Bye.
Yeah, I put that one out on Hollywood or Halloween one year. Just had something kind of themed, for that time that would kind of like pique people's interest around Halloween, but not necessarily feed the beast. um, so yeah. Anyways, guys, the reason why I wanted you to see that article relative to everything I'm talking about is because I'm going to start talking about, like, so, all right, why 33 degrees? I've kind of discussed that to a degree, right? I've talked about the Mason's use of it. And then that demon house thing I showed you how the same Mason Lodge I just showed you before not only lines up to all my weird shit, it also lines up due east to Zach Bagan's demon house. If you were following that article and you paid attention to it, that's what I was telling you. So the exact same Freemasonic lodge that I grew up next to for many, many years when I was a child, and then he spent a lot of time around as an adult, never went into it, actually. I've never been in it as a guest or a member or anything, guys. I'm not a Mason. And I did actually know some folks that were in the Tri-Cities area that were Freemasons, but they never discussed it with me. You know, it wasn't like they ever walked up to me and said, "Do you want to be one?" I was just conscious and aware based on things that I saw near them that they had to be Masons, or they at least respected them because they had their symbols nearby, or they had, you know, things that were dedicated, or like a, you know, Masonic whatever hanging around their house or something like that. And it was very, very common in Eastern Washington. So, um, so the reason why I wanted to get deeper into the discussion is so that when I talk about something more ancient in concept, you'll see how something could happen in the United States based on these weird energy lines and grid lines that we have here. That's very similar to the type of energy harvesting that existed within ancient pyramids. And like they could have done something here in the United States within underground tunnels and within other types of infrastructure that effectively hack negative energy mechanics. What do I mean by that? I'm going to share something with you just very briefly. Hang on here. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I've already done a presentation of it before, but I want to say to this is probably one of the best authorities on anything. This website, this article, I'll give you, it's already in the description, but I'll put it here in the chat if you want to follow along on your own. This article is amazing. Oops. And this is by Valery Uvarov. And it basically goes deep into like what the step pyramids were that the Mayans used. And so I'll just try to like summarize some of the material through my interpretive lens without inserting too much of my own intentions into his, because I don't want to disrespect his work. So the best thing that I can do is just simply offer my best interpretation as a person, you know, that comes from my background in history, trying to honor and respect the intention of the article the best that I can, with the best of intentions. But this article really gets deep into, you know, what the pyramids were doing in ancient Egypt, and he gets specifically into, well, I'll just read this really briefly. He says, before we look at the technology and the mechanism of a contamination with negative vibrations, we have to answer the main question: why at all make use of negative energy? The fact is that this type of energy allows you to effectively control the behavior of people. The Maya and Aztec priests, as well as some Tibetan and Egyptian cults, use this type of energy to influence the will and consciousness of people in their pursuit to establish contact with the gods and to maintain their cults. So then he gets kind of deep into the step pyramids, the Mayan step pyramids, and then, you know, the construction of them, and the color coding of painting them red so they could get specific types of primed energies within the crowd, that witnessed it. So it's pretty fascinating material. Sorry, I didn't mean to exit out of it there. So I guess the point I'm saying here is like when you get deep into this article and you realize that, okay, so there's geographic locations historically that spent a significant amount, you know, generation after generation was they practiced sacrifice. And what was the process of that? What were they really doing? Well, they had alignments, they had earth grid alignments, and they were basically emptying the souls of people, while priming them with symbols and incantations and chants. Um, and so the reason why I say that, guys, is that it's that when you're trying to change a person's like the when you're trying to program that person's like water frequency and plasma frequency and blood frequency, the moment of that person's death, when the blood is being spilled at the time of sacrifice, is part of what these people are about, you know. So that's kind of discussed inside this article. Like it gets, you know, how a lot of people just discuss like sacrifice at a purely superficial level, or at a purely accusational, or, you know, like they're a death cult and they're killing kids, or they're a death cult and they're doing, like, okay, yes, and those things, they have to be pointed out and discussed. But now you got to take it a step deeper, guys, because if you don't tell people why, what are these people doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what would be the function? What would be the reason? Okay. No, guys, I'm nobody but myself. I don't play any other characters. So somebody asked if I was summoned on, and I'm not. You know, I'm not saying that for my protection. I'm just not. So to answer your question, so really quickly though, I don't want to spend too much time going over Mr. Uvarov's article here. You guys should really just kind of read it on your own and make your own interpretations of it. But the point would be is that globally, the research is out there that these locations, when they dug deeper into what they were really trying to do, people like Uvarov have discovered that this was what they were originally designed as, that this is what the step pyramids looked like as their original design. They were painted like this, and this was color priming to the audience. The red created part of the bloodlust during the sacrifice on the altars. They actually built specific types of funnels, and so the blood would spill in different directions towards the crowd, and they were doing something energetically with the way it spilled down alabaster bowls through every step, and then charging the pyramids with energy. And when you go there, folks, I mean, you have to start thinking about, it's strange. It's like people think about going to a nuclear site and like taking a Geiger counter and going like, wow, like this is definitely a bad place for me to go. Like, look at all the nuclear radiation around here. This is toxic. I shouldn't be here. But see, you don't think twice about going to a place where they practice ritual sacrifice for generations. Like, I don't know how many generations they practice it with the Mayans and the Aztecs. But those locations people visit every single day. They walk up and down those pyramids over and over again. They empty their energy, they expend their energy, they empty POR, DOR spectrum energy, they experience it. A lot of times they're there feeling really great. Maybe they're changing the energy field of it. I don't know. But I would argue, though, that it doesn't have that effect. Like, not everybody can go to a place and actually change the energy of that location. Some people actually go to certain locations and become toxified by them, the same way that you would, like, if you went to a place that was, filled with nuclear radiation and you just dumped yourself right in the middle of it. You have a risk of getting a toxic dose that you can't get rid of for a long time. And you have to take the same kind of considerations when it comes to negative vibrations and negative energies. When it comes to know what you're doing, know what you're approaching, at least, be conscious and aware of the dynamics of it so that you can make the proper preparations for it and understand energetically what you're dealing with. I think people foolishly kind of go to places like the Egyptian pyramids and the Mayan pyramids, for example. I mean, I think the Egyptian pyramids had good intentions at their beginning, but what's existing out there right now is a shell of what it used to be. It's a non-functional healing pyramid, which makes it a potentially non-healing or toxifying pyramid, the Giza pyramids, because they don't function the way they're supposed to anymore. They've been left dormant. They're non-active. So what the types of vibrations that exist in them now are not the same ones that you would achieve from them when they had like more water running underneath, when there was more kinetic energy, when they were plated with the right materials. All those things change the energy of it. And then the history it's had since it was originally what it was. Because those ones are more like energy generators, healing generators, influence generators, even. I would say they broadcast influence, but they also broadcast healing. They were like a Ponce de Leon coming from a pyramid, life energies, information, data, all of it, but life too, all of it. Our concept of what these things are now, it's bizarre how we can accept that certain things do it, but we couldn't accept that a pyramid could do all of it. Think about it, guys. You transmit information on this invisibly, do you not? Can you see the data going to your phone? Well, it shows up on it, but it's not like you watched it go through the sky, but you accept on faith that it worked that way. Okay. So that's why I get into the studies like involving this. See, the experimental life meter. And this is like a thing that measures acupuncture points. It actually shows a representation of the energy that emissions from my finger right to here and here and here, and how it's different along every pinpoint. If I put it by my ear, if I put it by the tip of my nose, if I put it here, these are all going to be different representations of energy. Every chakra point that I put this little meter at is going to generate a different field. So again, whether somebody agrees that the device does what it says or not, it's an experimental life meter. Fine, okay, maybe you don't agree with it, but explain to me the variables. Why do I have more of it here, less of it here, more of it here, less of it here, more of it here? Again, explain to me why I have more here and there. That's what I find compelling about the life meter. I can go to a tree, plug a soil meter in, and go, wow, look at that thing. It's just glowing with energy. And then I move the meter away from the tree into the sand where it's all dry and there's no water. And the meter goes, well, there's a lack of life. What's going to grow in that? Well, the tree already did it when it was fertile. So the things that are still existing around the tree has become, a magnet of resources, for what little life energy exists in this barren desert that I was measuring this tree's life energy in. But I can assure you that that tree had a life energy signature using this meter and a soil probe that was very, very elevated. It was probably one of the more compelling things that I did. And that's what made it, like, quite a few people were chiming in and kind of going, wow, that's pretty cool. And I go, yeah, I'm really trying to get this down to I'm practicing more now, guys. Like, I don't have a guide. I don't have a person that trains me on how to do this. So I'm still learning as I go. And unfortunately, one of the people that I would have looked to for more training is gone. I guess there's the inventor of the device. I could maybe try to contact them in Canada. But the guy that was doing the most experiments that I could actually see was using the unit was James DeMayo, and he passed away in April. And that's sad because now I'm like, guys, you understand? Oh my God, dude, this sucks. This always happens to me, things like this, guys. I could, if you knew how close I am to where James DeMayo did his research, I could get there in maybe like an hour, hour and a half, I think. That's how close I am to where his orgone lab is. I mean, and now he's passed away. It's just tragic. And what's going to happen with all that? Where is the research going to go? Who's going to continue that? Who has the brain power to continue that? I mean, the type of mind that I have can take it only so far, guys. Like, you need somebody that's like deep into biology, like is a degreed biologist that also takes orgone seriously, that has the ability and the know-how to study things at that microscopic level and prove that bions exist in living matter, and that, these thoughts become things that we're talking about are real. So the reason why I wanted to show you that demon house thing and show you that in comparison to my thing about, the esoteric maps and, whatever was going on down there in, what do you call it? Astoria is, explain to me, guys, like, there's this one Masonic lodge that is connected to both Zach Bagan's Demon House and my Astoria column storyline simultaneously, in addition to having the 33 to 13 degree alignments to the farm that I grew up on and the house that I stayed in Central Oregon. It lines up to both of those pretty precisely too. I mean, the alignments are like all over the map close to me. And then you got that one that connects to that dude over in the east. It's weird. Very, very weird. And I thought it was notable because we talk about sacrifice and soft sacrifice and plasma versus blood. So there's like blood sacrifice and there's plasma sacrifice. What I would argue that Zach Bagans experienced when he was in the demon house, and the reason why he tore it down, is because he knows what goes on there. And I think I know. I think that there's something that goes on at the demon house where it has an alignment, some energy line, that it acts as a D.O.R spectrum magnet, and it generates extremely low frequency in that low, like 0 to 2 hertz range, that puts people in that somatic state, that sleep state, where they can be like lulled down into, it'll half a hertz, being in a high power half hertz field can, I think, lull you into a deep sleep. It'd be like just going like, it would almost be like munching on your brain to make you go to sleep. That's the best way I can describe, I think, a sensation like a half hertz, like highly amplified signal, which is what they were experiencing in the demon house. So it's not like you just went down there and detected the signal. It was like way amplified. They could take those meters and go down there and see what the extremely low frequency is, ELF. And the guy was like going, I don't know what's going on here, man, but like I go to places that are like geographically significant all over the world, and I don't see signals like it's inside your basement here, man. And so there was some type of energy that pulsed in that half hertz range that was in the basement. And if you think about it, Earth resonance is 7.83 hertz. So that's when you're in nature, and that's when you're experiencing the actual full breadth of reality and the full experience of the 3D spectrum, is because you're actually experiencing what we're all generating. So I think what happens when you go inside that basement is that whatever is bringing that half hertz signal in there is like that's so radically removed from 7.83 hertz that it cycles your brainwave into a damn near death state. Like it's like you experience you're in an awake zombie death state while you're inside the basement, to the point where it actually damaged his eyes. Why? Well, think about what everything I've been talking about, guys. It damaged Zach Bagan's vision because his frequency was cycled down so aggressively that he actually, at some point, the effect of that was that it just damaged his eyes because they're their energy inputs. It's too much. It overdrove it. He spent so much time in the basement in this artificial, non-life energy, non-Schumann resonance, environment, that this whole method he has of locking himself into places and then, spending the night. This was one case where that's a little bit almost like suicidal. Like you're placing yourself in an energy chamber that's literally going to like damage your physiology. And he's probably learned his lessons. Well, I don't know if he has, but he's probably learned his lesson since, that you're not dealing with nothing here. You're actually dealing with a measurable energy that can harm you. So folks, like we're getting to the point now where spiritual and physical, there's this bridge that we can actually explain finally. I can help explain it with this, but like nobody gives me the time of day when I try to help them understand that there is something that's going on that's related to this type of measurable energy and what's going on with them. Like if I contacted those folks at the Ghost Adventures, they would just like throw my fucking email in the garbage and act like it didn't happen. Yet here I am. I probably have a pretty good explanation for what's going on with their physical health. Even down to like somebody feeling possessed after they leave a location. I can probably help explain it. But see, it's bizarre. I think that if I went to some Jesuit priests who wanted to understand exorcisms better, they'd probably take me seriously. How would I get that audience? Like there's things, folks, that I know now that I really do know very, very well, like how they operate and how they're functioning. And that demon house has a lot of clues in it for people to figure things out. Even if the story was bunk, the data that's contained within the story can be applied to a real one. But I don't think that it's a fake story because there's too many people that experience things inside that house. There is just to give you a clearer explanation, because that article is really short. It just talks about the demon house briefly as a documentary. But if you study it, the location where he filmed that had repeated, like many different people reported possessions, demonic possessions, and things that would require exorcisms, like behaviors that are like the kind of things that are, nothing is going to be like Linda Blair in The Exorcist in reality. It's not going to get that extreme, but pretty close to that extreme. I think one of the stories, like a kid, he like did like a, they said that he just like he was acting all weird. He got influenced by something and it just sort of like took control of him. And they said his eyes rolled back into his head. And he did this thing where he like arched backwards, like on like his hands. And then I think they said he ran up the wall. Like he started off by like just going, like did like immediate flip backwards, this kid who got possessed. And then just his feet ran straight up the wall to where he was. And then he just like flipped around. And then he was doing all kinds of weird shit with his eyes. And I got to be straight up with you guys. Like I started thinking about that as like an electromagnetic, being pulled between very strong magnetic fields of extremely low frequency, and the way that impacts a brain, and how it would create autonomous muscle responses. And I'm going, you know something, guys, this shit could have happened. I think this actually could have happened to some of these people. They may not all be full of shit. And I'm usually the biggest skeptic. I'm usually like going, I don't know. I think they might be looking for attention on that one. But no, I think there is actually some real shit going on there. That's why it compelled me to talk about it deeper, you know? Yeah. So Noises says there's some guy on YouTube that a lot of these hauntings use frequencies and specific GPS coordinates. So yeah, I mean, I don't know about the GPS thing, but what I mean to say though is that yeah, I'm aware. I want to get deeper into researching it if I ever had the funding and I could be stationary someplace to store the equipment, because that's my problem now, guys. I don't try to research those things as deep because I would have to buy the devices or keep them stored someplace for a while, and I'm just never anywhere long enough to do that. And I don't like having to keep things in storage very long. But what I would like to do is test things like that, like the paranormal test gear, and find out like what it's doing and explain it. Like have that be one wing of what I do on this channel, is to actually purchase like those paranormal test gears and say, all right, guys, so when you see a spirit box, here's what they're doing. Okay, so when you see one of these things, it's like, well, here's what they're actually trying to determine. Even though the needle's doing this and they're telling you it means this, they're just giving you dumbed down speak for the technical concept that is this. And then I would say whether or not I believe it actually measures something that's tangible or not. And it doesn't mean that I'm right. It would just be my analysis of it based on what I've learned on energetics. Because I do think a lot of the things that they're trying to do in some of these shows is legit, but I also think that they're not conscious and aware, or because it's too cool for them to collect evidence that's very compelling, that they're not always concerned whether or not it might have been faked, even for them to buy into whether they were involved or not. You see what I'm saying? Like if it gets them something that's compelling on camera, are they going to give a shit and dig deeper? Maybe not. They might just be satisfied with like leaving it at that and going like, yep, we got some evidence, guys. I don't care who's out there doing it, but thanks for the gold. Because, it would be kind of like that, wouldn't it? You could just have somebody out there with a signal generator just going like, get out. I'm saying your specific name into this frequency. And so then they're going like, let's find out what the spirits are saying. I'm saying your specific voice into this frequency. Holy shit! And then they all respond. I mean, that's probably why I don't get answers back from shows like that when I write them. I don't know. Because I want one of them to be like in earnest, actually trying to do what they say without it being too all immersed in entertainment. I'm really hoping that one of them's at least trying, But in my experience, usually when you get down to the layer of like actually sending things to people and saying, I think I might be able to help you with this, or I think I understand this at a deeper level. If you ever want to talk to me, they just don't answer back. Maybe they never get the emails. I don't know. But I did actually contact those folks like a couple years ago because I thought, something, I learned enough from that show that even though I kind of see it as entertainment type things now, I at least want to like give it a good solid effort to say like, hey, maybe there's something that I could explain something to you with this, and it might work out. It might be something you might be interested in measuring at some point. But because you can measure environments with these things, guys, like this, you can actually measure the environment of the area, and you can use things like the biowell, like this thing here. It has attachments that are environmental meters, like it's called a Sputnik, and it'll actually do like energy readings of the area. And so again, like if you're doing a paranormal investigation, you could set up a Sputnik inside the same rooms as all these other meters are set up in, and see what kind of anomalies go into the energy field of the room whenever the other meters detect that there's an event simultaneously as well. You see, it's another layer of verification. It's really not even anything you'd want to be dismissive of, because everything that these people are discussing is in the aether, and it's influencing things that we see in the physical layer. And so these people, none of them are measuring the aether. They're not even trying. They're not even like looking into what it is. They just dismiss it and actually go out right off into like, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, if I have this and I have this, and I'm not a guy who owns mansions and has a TV show, then why the fuck aren't they showing people? Because I've never seen it on those shows. Maybe they are. And guys, if there's an example, please tell me, because I don't want to be like dismissive of it. If they're doing it, then cool. I appreciate that they are. But I've yet to see any of these like spirit quest and ghost adventures and ghost busters and whatever else things going on where they get this deep into it at this level. Yet I want to acknowledge all of them and say that they're pretty cool in what they've done up until now, as far as like, some of these other layers, because it's not like it's all bullshit. I think they're the people that are doing it in earnest. Hey, cool. And I respect it. But if you're not paying attention to this, you're missing an entire layer. And I think you're missing a really compelling piece of evidence that you can show people. Seriously, especially biofield things and aura fields, that gets deeper into it too. Like that's like right down their alley, but they just don't get it. They don't get into it, guys. And that's trippy to me, because I really feel like this is where you get into tangible science, you know? Yeah, so the Noises said there was a lot of music studios that were reported as haunted in the 60s and 70s. Artists would live at studios, houses as they wrote an album. So, yeah, true. And frequencies can be used to inspire creativity. Yeah. So, by the way, I mean, frequencies can be used to inspire creativity, senses of doom, and all of it. And it's funny that you mentioned this, actually, because I was going through some old bookmarks on my Twitter, and I did bookmark this old. Somebody posted something where they get a clip of an interview with George Martin, the producer of the Beatles albums, sitting with Paul McCartney, and they're both talking about the use of audio and frequencies to influence people. And Paul McCartney, right out of his mouth, straight, you can probably find this if you look it up. Paul McCartney straight up says that the Nazis would use different frequency oscillations to change the behaviors of the audience and influence them in different ways. Sometimes he was trying to make them sick or nauseous or just really uncomfortable or in a rage. And that he specifically would keep them at this unrested sort of tense state, like they would send a frequency that would go through everybody's ears leading into the event. So they'd all be kind of like, they wouldn't even know why they were a little bit kind of at edge or whatever else like that. And then to manipulate the audience, as soon as Hitler came out, they did this frequency that just like went like boom, that made their changed their frequency to make them get kind of excited and amplified. So it wasn't like a fear one, it was more of like a like, and now you're free, and then like, so you the whole time you're waiting for Hitler, your body's kind of like going like and then they change the resonant frequency to everybody hives into ah. And so how do you think they're going to feel when the guy comes out? They're going to start shouting because their bodies just got released from this horrible, ugly frequency. Now they associate something pleasing with the face of Hitler, who now just goes on and starts saying, kill this, kill them, we hate them, we hate that. Trippy, isn't it? But I mean, that's something that even Paul McCartney mentions. And, as a musician, the use of frequencies to change people's behaviors inside a crowd, like that you can actually just go use slight oscillations and hertz tones that are in the background of whatever it is you're playing. And that in and of itself changes everybody's behavior. And then once you change enough people's behavior in the audience through the audio frequencies, then they hive into one another, then they begin amplifying the other one's behavior. See, this is structural psychology. This exact method, actually, there's a name for it in the Defense Intelligence Agency documentation called controlled offensive behavior. If you get deep into that report, like 100 pages in or so, it gets into this whole thing involving structural psychology, what a structured mass is, what a destructured mass is. And one of the ways of creating destructured masses of people is the use of frequencies. And again, they knew that even back into this documentation that was put out in the 70s. They knew it way before then if Hitler was doing it, obviously. Because I'm sure the Germans weren't the only ones who knew that audio could do that. There's certainly Americans that knew it too. Bell Labs. I mean, they had all kinds of research in this field. So yeah, again, the Noises is making some good comments here, so I want to give them credit for this. They're saying frequencies can be used to inspire creativity, to inspire them. That's why artists say notes, words. Hang on here. flowed through them but didn't technically originate from within them. And I guess that these frequencies might also manifest as hauntings or demons. So yeah, that's really good comments there, because I mean that's kind of, you're kind of like tuning into exactly what I'm trying to explain here, that you can spend enough time in one location, and I think you can actually change the energy field of location using sacrifice. And I think there's different forms of sacrifice that exist that change the energy field of a physical location. There's blood sacrifice, which would be like hard ritual murder, which actually results in the physical death that's acknowledged as a physical death. And again, technical talk, yeah, ritual murder, but what most people just call a blood sacrifice, okay? Where the blood is spilled in the geographic location, specifically because the intention at an occult level, at a science-based occult level, the intention of the participants in the sacrifice is to combine the incantations, their visual image, their cult, their group's power structure and influence, and all the symbols of it. They're going to watermark this person's aether. They are watermarking this in person with the ritual. They're traumatizing, they're drilling this ritual into them. This person's having to hear these hateful people and see these hateful people right before the blood is spilled. The blood gets spilled. Now it has an imprint, like a watermark of the people that killed the sacrifice. Now that adds the influence of the people that perform the sacrifice into the physical location where the blood is spilled. So it's the same reason why they want their relatives all together in the same place. They want all the remnants, as much of it as possible, to stay in the same physical location within physical reality, in the same location as the others. Not just for sentimental value. I would argue there's occulted reasons for that. And I think that there was an occulted understanding of it earlier in our history that now has just been forgotten. One of the classic examples of this, guys, is that, like out in, and I know it's not the only one that exists, but out in Eastern Washington, it's actually more central Washington, there's a town called Roslyn. They actually filmed the series Northern Exposure there, that intro. I know the series technically takes place in Alaska, but that whole intro is filmed in central Washington in a town called Roslyn. And that restaurant that it's filmed in is called The Pit. And you can actually visit that if you ever go to Roslyn, last I checked. It's still like a place that you can actually physically go to, and it looks like that and everything. I used to actually visit the town of Roslyn to design cell towers. So, in fact, you can see one up on the hill if you ever go out to that town, and there's one that's serving the town of Roslyn. I'm the guy that made that happen. We actually moved an old one to a new location, and it's a whole long story. But point is, I spent a lot of time in Roslyn. All right. What was I going with that? Watermarking at the time of sacrifice because it leaves an imprint. Okay, so in Roslyn, the reason why I was mentioning that is because if you go out to that town, there's a segregated cemetery, and there were so many different cultures that were going out there to work in the various industries. A lot of them were like lumber and mining and things like that. And they had these rivalries, and they didn't like each other, and they did not want to be buried in the same place. And so literally if you go up to the top of the hill where all the people are buried, there's separate cemeteries where they're sectioned off. And so people of varying ethnic origins and various country origins who don't like other groups, they never are buried next to each other. They're all in these segregated cemeteries. Like they took their disdain for one another like right to the grave. We're like, hell no, I'm not spending eternity next to that person. No way. So interesting, is it not? But I mean, it's probably not rooted though in something as simple as like the standard like racist, arrogant, derp type bigotry. It probably is deeper based on their understanding of energetics back then. It's like we've forgotten things, guys. It's like somebody's erased our memory of these things because nothing's new here. I don't talk about anything new. This thing here, this is just a smaller form of what Wilhelm Reich had to measure the same energy. They can just make it into something this big now, and even it could be even smaller if it was being mass produced. That thing's just done by some guy in Canada, probably just 3D printing, and assembles it all based on a design from Wilhelm Reich. All right, so that's getting into like the bad. All right, so what is the positive aspects of this, guys? Like, are you familiar with the Bosnian pyramid? If not, let me get some material up here. I've got some trippy thing going on with this Bosnian pyramid. So there's let me see here, Bosnian pyramid. I'm gonna do a quick search on Bosnia. All right. That. Okay, that's a good one. Sorry, guys, I got to get some things together here real quick. I should have had this ready for you. I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Crap. See, I can't ever remember like the name of Apple apps. Like I've had Apple products for the longest time, but when I have to open things, I always forget. I always forget the name of the app that's associated with the type of file. What is the name of it, man? There's like, I think I'll just open this thing here. Hang on, really quick. It's not Pages. That's for like, how do you do PowerPoints? That's the thing I can't remember. See, because I have the app, but for some strange reason, it's not like auto opening on my machine. I think I know why. I think this has happened ever since I had to change things in the configuration of my computer. So that's why I can't open this PowerPoint. Well, that sucks. All right, I got to find some other way to do this. Oh, I think this is it. Oh, here we go. Okay. Great. Okay. Got it. Yay. Sorry, folks. I knew I'd get it eventually. So this is actually, you're in luck because I have a presentation from so what I'm about to show you was authored. The guy that made this device, Dr. Karatov, okay, he authored the report I'm about to show you. So let me do a stop screen here. Boom. All right. Let's see if I can get rid of all this crap. There we go. Okay, cool. So, those unfamiliar, there's some pyramids that are out in Bosnia that are kind of unacknowledged, or they're kind of made fun of by some of the other members of the scientific community that are more like the Egyptologists. And so I tend to see, like, I tend to find things that researchers closer to like Valery Uvarov and guys like Dr. Karatov and guys like Osmog, Oz, I can't say his name suddenly, Osmog, Dr. Osmanovich. Osmanovich. Sorry, guys. He's the guy that's closest to the Bosnian pyramids. I don't know why I'm struggling with his name. I always have it right before, but for some reason I don't have it in front of me. So I'll get it in a second. But these guys actually are doing some pretty groundbreaking research on a healing pyramid. And so it's interesting to me that, like, before I get into this, that the pyramids that are known to have by these researchers, the ones that are known to still be transmitting a form of sort of like toxic DOR spectrum energy, they're encouraging people globally to come to those locations. They still want you to come to the Egyptian pyramids, even though they know spending a lot of time inside, like longer than 10-15 minutes, is pretty toxic energetically. Bioenergetically, the types of energy that are left behind, the dormant energy that's in these places, is not a healthy one for you to experience. I understand it's historically significant, and I'm not saying don't do it, but know what you're getting into and take proper precautions. I mean, take these energy concepts seriously. If you take it seriously, if you're the kind of person that's going out there, why wouldn't you take this seriously? But they don't. And a lot of the people that are saying come to Egypt are saying the Bosnian pyramid, whatever. And I'm kind of going, no, 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 no. So what I'm saying, folks, is that pyramids are all over the place, like some folks are pointing out in here. But this one here is in Bosnia, and I've done my own research on it to know that it absolutely is a esoterically significant. It's a mystic. There's all kinds of really cool space time, globally significant things going on with the Bosnian pyramid. There is no place that the Bosnian pyramid doesn't touch in some strangely aligned 33, 303, 303, like all of the 33 alignments go to different places when it comes to the Bosnian pyramid. I need to do an entire documentary on those alignments alone. I'm going to sit down, I think, soon and do that so you can see just how miraculous it is. So this is just him kind of explaining the biowell system relative to his research, because this gets into this report actually gets into measuring people's and physical, like what I showed you earlier, this diagram here. Where is it? Sorry, guys. This stupid app always makes me open up the Bluetooth, and I don't like having it on. So, all right, that the camera takes the image when you're using it the standard way of this, like your body, okay? But it also has another attachment, and I also use this as well. I've done these types of measurements myself. That's the Sputnik meter that you see there, okay? And that's the environmental reader. So this can do a bunch of different things. I mean, you can do the types of energy field readings from your hands, but you can also do environmental readings. You can take them directly from your skin, like using a TENS pad. You can wear a glove and plug it into it and take an energy reading from your hand. You can do like, yeah, I mean, you can measure just about any part of your body to find out how it changes energetically in real time, depending on whatever's going on. So, like, if you want to know if your stress levels or whatever are changing, that kind of thing. So, I'm telling you that not as some advertisement or anything like that, but just mostly so that you understand that this was something that they were using inside the pyramid to measure the environment as well as the energy field. So they use the same camera device to basically have a good basis of comparison. So you know what I'm saying, that you're using the same unit of measure and the same exact camera and device through which to get both your environmental readings as well as your human energy readings. And I think that that's kind of important to the experiment. It gives it a layer of validity that I normally wouldn't give it credence for, just based on my experience with test equipment and wireless environments. So these are just pictures of some of the ancient structures. I mean, it has all the appearances, guys. There's like caves and cave carved out tunnel systems that are inside, and that when people go inside, um, they feel healing energies. They don't feel anything dark. The deeper they go inside the labyrinth of these tunnels, the more they begin to start to feel healed. And so I've actually gone to the Bosnian Pyramid YouTube channel and seen testimonies from people that said that they had chronic back pain for decades. And then when they went inside the pyramid, it all went away. There's one lady that said she's never had her vision correct. Like it's always been bad since she was a child. And she went into the pyramid. And after a while, it started to become difficult for her to get around with her wearing her glasses. So she took them off and she set them down, and that she didn't even realize. Um, yeah, it's not heavy, but it's actually a pretty decent weight. It's not a lightweight or cheap feeling device at all. So I was actually impressed with that aspect of it. It's good quality construction as far as the camera. The Sputnik, I have an older iteration of it, and they've improved upon the device since I bought mine. So if I had the funding at this point, or if I had a little bit more money right now, I would probably opt to buy the updated Sputnik. But I'm going to wait until I'm ready to go full bore with my experiments until I start getting into purchasing more equipment. But this is them basically. These are the types. So just so you guys understand, though, like this is where I'm taking my research because I can. Like I'm going to be doing the similar types of experiments, and so what I'm explaining to folks is like everything Dr. Karatov mentions and references in his report. I can do what he mentions here and more. I can add this layer of data onto it, and I have other meters that I can add onto it for these detailed reports showing how a location heals or makes somebody feel bad. I mean, however it is, this device will be the thing that can actually show how it affects the biofield comparative to an environmental reading with the same type of unit of measure. So it's taking the same dynamic of field of energy, whether you agree upon its legitimacy or not. The fluctuations are relevant for some reason. So it's a relevant data point no matter how you feel about the devices. Whether you don't like the life meter or you don't like the biowell, it doesn't matter to me. But explain to me why these variables exist when certain environmental conditions change, and then we can have a conversation, because that's the still, like, again, I'm open to it not being valid, but I want somebody to help me get to that point, like debunk that. Then I'll understand it better, and whiteboard it for me why it's not legit. But nobody's been able to do that so far. But it's a very again limited audience too. So again, I look for a more broad audience through which to present these things to, because I do think it's going to be pretty relevant. And so what you have here, folks, is this meter here. So what I just showed you at the bio well, he was using this with the environmental meter with those little spikes on it to create these charts. And so again, what you can see here is the fluctuations in the orgone fields or the biofields with using the environmental meter. But they even section off that biofield data into like joules, and then again into sub layers of data that I don't even have full understandings of. All I can tell you is that in one location, the joule energy is higher, in one location it's lower, and it's worthy of exploring like why that is. Again, these are experimental data sets that you just, there's something new that we need to start looking into and asking why they're happening. But within Western science, you can't even get somebody to like even begin to look at it. That's our problem. They just kind of go like, whatever. So like, how do we get there? Like this is good data that I think should be analyzed deeper, and this is being provided by the Russian researchers. So again, what are you seeing here? Well, these are energy readings when you go into the sun pyramid, moon pyramid, the various tunnels that are underground, and then showing you how you get different levels of these energies depending on where you are. 2 point, roughly between 2.3 to 2.6 on the energy scale when you're in the pyramid basement. It's an elevated, when you go into the chamber, even more so when you go into the stone circle into the middle of the pyramidal structure. They have a whole separate tunnel where the readings go even higher with healing energies. They have another section there where, they show you the difference overall through like the entire route between the sun pyramid versus the moon pyramid, because there's a few different ones out there that they have different names for. So it's really cool the way they break this data into different sets that are really compelling and actually shows somebody like, okay, this is something that I can at least go, even if I don't understand that unit of measure entirely, it gives me something visual as an engineer or technician type mind that I can at least go, okay, let's start with this. Let's find out what is all this. Okay. That's the problem with Gaia Mother Earth. They don't get into this. And so the people like me that are like the wireless design engineers that are running around going like, whatever, life energy, my ass. Yeah, orgone. Okay, yeah, you're making holy whatever, cloud busters. Woo. Like we didn't take it seriously, guys. I mean, we just didn't. Like I was open to taking it seriously because I was just like a different kind of minded person. But while I was in the wireless industry designing cell towers or maintaining them, if another engineer approached me and said, "Hey, have you seen these things they got online where these guys claim that they can like reduce like, EMF and things like that with these like, these orgone generator things?" And we'd laugh at it because they didn't really do anything. And they wouldn't, mind you, if people wanted to bury them all surrounding the cell tower and, there wasn't anything dangerous in them, sure, I don't care. I mean, go for it. It's not going to hurt the tower though. And if you think it helps you, then great. I mean, fine. I didn't want to take that away from anybody. If they have this placebo effect that tells them they're experiencing less of this because the meters don't show it, I really doubt that you could tell me that after they place those things down around the fence line of a tower, that you could go out there with an EMF meter and see any noticeable difference. It wouldn't change anything once you got to your house. I mean, yeah, you could run a meter right next to a bunch of a little silicone thing filled with magnetic shavings and metal, and of course, it's going to change the magnetic field. Of course, it's going to change the electrical field to some degree, just putting it near it, because having that right next to the detector, yeah, it's going to change it. But no, it's those things aren't going to do anything once you get further away from that tower. So people talk about they can bury, like they call them holy hand. I don't like using the name, but because they have it, they imply something much worse. But they'll bury them all around cell towers claiming they can do something. And again, guys, it's not like it's going to hurt them for you to do that, but you're wasting your time, your energy, and your money. But go ahead if you want to. I mean, I don't care as long as you get permission. And this just like puts a different type of representation for the different, like regions where they show you the energy levels that were in there. So again, guys, energy, like you'll say, like, man, I feel like I'm in this tunnel. Like, what does it mean? I used to think like people would say things to me like, wow, the energy in here is like, it's so this or that, or there's so much energy. And like, but what does that mean? I mean, energy is representation of what? Explain to me like what is energy? Well, these meters are actually, we're showing you like this is life energy. This is a measurement of this differences of the difference between what's created by the sun and what's created by the moon. One electrical, one magnetic is this etheric field where life either thrives or shrinks within your physical perception and your physical body. So it's everything to your physical reality, but they've hidden it from us in Western science. Meanwhile, all across Eastern, civilizations, India, a lot of places, even in, I would argue, like China, Japan, it's all central to their learnings. Korea, it's all central to their philosophies. They already know it. How are we so blind? How are we so ignorant? Not to chastise folks, but I mean, this is a pretty good audience, but I was ignorant. I mean, I'm like, shame on me. Why didn't I know these things? I should have had a more sophisticated understanding. I should have dug deeper. I should have cared more. I shouldn't have been so dismissive. But see, nobody was producing material like resonant frequency, no, resonant beings of frequency. If you show that documentary to a whole bunch of engineers that deal with frequency, it'll change a few. There'll be a few that walk away from it going, yeah, I need to look deeper into this. I know there will be at least a small percentage. And if that's all you reach, then that's powerful. It got me that way. It's not like I just saw a documentary and quit my job. No, I'd already left. But that's when I knew that I made the right decision, was when I saw resonant beings of frequency. I don't have a problem with the wireless industry. I know most of those folks are doing the best they can with what they got. they see themselves in what they're doing as a good thing. And I basically do too. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a better way I think it could be done. We need to think about different ways of delivering signals and frequencies that are healthier and more in harmony with nature and the way our brain waves operate, so that they're not there. I don't want anything to be designed that can intentionally disrupt the relationship between human brainwave and earth brainwave. And as long as people don't understand there's a relationship between human and earth brainwave, then they won't get when a technology is placed in front of them that can interrupt it, and why it's damaging for them to use that technology. For example, Bluetooth headsets, very, very disruptive to your connection to earth resonance. Think about it. Everything's brainwave. What are you doing? You're putting 2.5 gigahertz right inside your ear, right next to your fucking brain. Wake up, Neo. Don't use those things. They're bad, 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 bad. I'm going to say this over and over again, guys, and I'm not the kind of guy that runs around going, don't do that. No. Like, go ahead and have a beer. Smoke a joint. Do some casual drugs if you want to, but don't stick a fucking Bluetooth inside your ear. It's way worse. I believe that. I'm not suggesting you guys go do drugs. I'm just telling you, like, in my mind, that's a lot worse for you than constantly placing a Bluetooth headset inside your ear. You may disagree with me, but that's because you know why? The longer you do that, the more you are changing your physical reality and bending it in a way that is not organic to your human brainwave. Everything you're generating uses human brainwave. You are placing an electromagnetic disruptor right inside a critical part of how you process frequency from every direction. So wherever the radio aspect of that, well, it's in both. You have radios on both sides of these things that are disrupting your human brainwave. They have a layer of amplification, however insignificant that amount is. It only takes a small amount to disrupt your brainwave. You're only generating millivolts. Well, so are these headsets. Guys, doesn't that make sense to you? I mean, I don't mean to get into health discussion here, but geez, I hope that makes sense. Like, you really don't want to be doing that. I've never had good luck with Bluetooth myself, so I don't use it. Even when I didn't know these things or I didn't believe it, Bluetooth always failed on me. So I try to use it as little as possible. So they went to the extreme of measuring people's chakras before and after they went into certain environments. And so this got right down into, like, using this energy meter, you can actually show based on all the different pinpoints, the different layers of, like, all your energy points in your fingers. You take some measurement of all of them, and it creates an entire electrical, bioelectrical map, I guess you could say, of sorts, where you can actually determine where the balance of your organs are, and that actually gives you a better idea of how your chakras are aligned. And so they actually do chakra alignments relative to these energy readings. They do the energy fields relative to going in and out. And I thought these were pretty compelling because some of these people actually had some noticeable, like, flares or disruptions inside their chakras, before and after. This one I thought was the most compelling. So look at this one. So this one here was the biofield. And when you really look at it closely, especially like where the hand hip area is, see how there's a flare right there? Like, there's actually a disruption. There's not like a free flowing ring that goes all the way around. Now watch when you go over to the after. Now this is them inside the energy tunnel, and the flare is no longer disrupted. There's no empty spot here by where the hand is. See that? The ring goes all the way around. And so again, that full ring going all the way around the body, that influences what happens to the physical body. The healthier that ring and the more fluorescent and the wider it is going outbound from the body, that means you're generating more of this positive orgone radiation. Your biofield is flourishing. You're creating lots of life energy, which means that you're not just in a state of self-healing. You have the ability oftentimes to heal others when you have no disruptions in your field. So when you do have a disruption and you go into a new environment that heals that disruption, I would argue that that's compelling evidence. That's actually something that shows that this person is on their way to the healing process. Because again, an open flare in this non-physical layer results in anomalies in the physical. That's just what seems to be shown. They take these measurements very seriously in some of these countries, guys. Like there's some colleges in Russia where they do before and after for practice. Like, how's your biofield now? Okay, we practiced. How's your biofield after practice? Good, good, good. You're improving. Okay, cool. Let's go. Like, they're taking it seriously, guys. But here we relegate it to new age circles and to where things can be mocked a little bit and where they're not really discussed more seriously and scientifically. So that's one of the reasons why I was kind of excited about using this and being a part of the community that does these measurements, because I want to measure pyramids. Like, I want to measure caves that people say are healing. I want to measure like areas where there's lakes and rivers and campgrounds and places like that where people say, yeah, I feel really healed here. And then we can all go out there together and determine, like, is this happening? Let's prove it. Let's do exactly what Dr. Karatov did and produce these exact same types of reports. My problem is, guys, I can't really do it by myself. Like, there's only so much I can do to measure myself and do things using my own environment. And, just measuring yourself is a challenge in and of itself. So these things do kind of require certain degrees of partnerships and collaboration with people who understand it and get it. And so a lot of what I do is an aid of finding those people and making sure that I keep, a lot of material out there that kind of helps them understand that I would like to be in a more collaborative environment and be doing these types of tests in a larger way. But I can't always self-fund them, as all, guys. So sometimes others have to, like, if you want me to do these types of readings or come out to your location, we'll just have to have conversations about how we make all that work. But a lot of times I can get there and do it and everything else like that, and find my own way around. It's not necessarily a problem, but it's just um, we got to start, like, really showing people that these things work, and that does require some collaboration. So again, I always leave my contact details and descriptions so people can contact me in case they're interested in being a part of that. Not just, what I mean to say, guys, is somebody who can contribute something to being a part of it, not just say, like, I would like to do it. I mean, that's cool and I'm glad, but I need a little bit more than that as far as the participation goes. I need active partners sometimes to actually carry out a complete study and things. So I'm looking for more collaborative environments where we might be able to form something like that into the future. But then they have a human energy before and after drinking the tunnel water. So they have a whole bunch of people that are going into this energy system where the Bosnian pyramids are, and there's like a running body of water in this tunnel system. And so they were actually showing how people's biofields were changing for the better or worse after drinking the water. And as you can see here, everybody seemed to be having an increased biofield. That's before and that's after. It may not be hugely elevated, but you can definitely tell the one on the right's a lot thicker. It's just a little bit healthier than the other one. This one's got some flares over here, a little bit weaker on the left side of it. This one's a lot thicker after they drink the water in the tunnel. And so again, this meter kind of breaks everything down to show that, I won't get deep into all the different layer points here because this is more about maps, um, but that's actually it right there. If you've never seen it, I'll expand that. And so you can see the different angles here, and it's just been obscured by all the trees and the greenery over the years, but they've uncovered on the top of it and everything else like that. They've got all kinds of photos of the relics and things that were placed there. It had to have been hundreds of years ago. So all right, so that's what I've got on the Bosnian pyramids, but guys, it gets so much deeper than that. Let me show you something here. I'm going to show you, like, why that's such a bizarrely. Oh crap, that's why. All right, I got to fix that. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Wait. Are you doing yeah, yes? Just doing my drum for the maps song, you know. It's not bad. That's the intro to Maps by Yeah, Yes, for those familiar. Oh, sorry if you didn't hear me there. I just realized it may have muted me if I didn't have that on there. Yeah, noises. If you want to talk, like just email me in the thing for the description and everything, because I want the this live presentation to kind of keep flowing. But I do appreciate that, you know. But yeah, let me know. I'd be happy to like talk to you more about that if you're interested. And so what I'm showing you here, guys, is it's just like, to me, this was like a huge sign of like the way that these pyramids change physical reality, and that the Fibonacci sequence is living in all these different things. And this really tripped me out, guys, because like this area is in Oregon, okay, and I need to go out there and do some. I need to get more funding. I need to get a car that's in better shape than I have right now. My car is a total disaster, guys. That's really what I need more than anything right now, guys. If anybody wanted to help me with anything, it'd be just to help me get into a car that's functional, because I really spent the last like several months like busting my ass trying to work into getting myself mobile again. And I'm starting to experience like crap again, and I really need to get that taken care of. So that's really the most urgent thing now, is just making sure that I don't get slowed down by that issue. But yeah, like I'm telling you, I'm very, very open. I would like to be in more collaborative environments and things like that, where I at least have an opportunity to earn income. So if you have something that involves both, then definitely write me, even if it's just a couple sentences to open up the window of communication and say what you would like to know or whatever. Then we can talk about that. But this is Wallowa Lake, Oregon, and it's in a town called Joseph and Enterprise. And Wallowa Lake, like I have to show this to you once. I know this looks like a big scramble of lines, guys, but let me zoom in so you can kind of see the pattern here. So this is very Fibonacci sequence. This is where a tower I built is, right here, and this is where the top of the mountain is, Mount Howard. Down here is Wallowa Lake, where I personally designed and built the tower with somebody else. Like we were the design engineers, and I was like the lead engineer on it. And then there's Wallowa Lake, Wallowa Peak, Sacagawea Peak, Aneroid Mountain, and these are all the different high points. Now notice how it starts to follow a pattern very similar to the spiral that's within the Fibonacci sequence. Then you go to Aneroid Mountain, then you go to out. Now, this point here, this is what's trippy, guys. At this intersection here, where this next point is, this is another high point on the mountain, right? But not only is it a high point on the mountain, there's all these lines that come from all across the world that intersect right here from various ancient sites, pyramids, or Freemasonic lodge. So, for example, at this next point within this Fibonacci spiral, this is where the Altai pyramid meets, that's in Russia, meets the 330-degree azimuth angle that's aligned within the Bosnian pyramid, as well as, so the yellow line is the Bosnian pyramid, that's coming from here. The blue line is the Richland Masonic Lodge, and the red line is where the Altai pyramid is. And the reason why that's also relevant, guys, is because the Altai pyramid has an alignment to Lake Mead. And so the Altai pyramid, if you've ever seen my research on that, I can play that article for you here in a second, then this will make more sense. The Altai pyramid is in Russia, and it looks just like a flux capacitor. It's that three-sided pyramid that the inverse of it would look like Lake Mead. So yeah, it's a mountain like this or a pyramid like this, but the inverse would form an upside down, like triangular indentation like lake. And that's what Lake Mead looks like. And they're aligned. So the Altai pyramid in Russia points straight to Lake Mead, when you see where its needle points at. Then it winds up there at an exact 25% circumference of the Earth. It goes straight to Lake Mead. So there's something to that alignment that's relevant. I don't fully understand it, guys. It's just one of those things that I've tried to share with people, and when they see it, they kind of go, "Oh, wow," you know. But what I'm telling you is that Bosnian pyramid is this yellow line. This is the Altai pyramid from Russia, and they both cross one another right there in Wallowa Lake, Oregon, on top of that mountain in the Fibonacci spiral where my tower is also connected to. That's an artificial tower that I personally built that's connected to the other mountain peaks out there. Isn't that weird that it aligns? Because I didn't do that for any intention. It just happened that way. It's just the best place for the tower to go. Wasn't where I wasn't doing something fancy or tricky, guys. It's just when I was doing my job, that's where the spot to put it was. And then if you follow this white line further, right? So it goes aneroid, then it goes to this bullseye point here. Then right here is really trippy because that blue line and the yellow line, again, the yellow line comes in from 330 degrees from the Bosnian pyramid, and it aligns out here in Oregon with a garden that was used for the filming of Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury at 33.33 degrees. They align. So the 330-degree Bosnian pyramid line lines up with some ancient esoteric garden that's used in the film by Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury. There's a garden that's in Macau, and that it has, if you do the azimuths of where every single point of it is inside the garden, they line up. One line's at 33.33 degrees and lines up right out here in Wallowa Lake. I know this guy's looks kind of messy, but I don't know how else to describe it to you. If you were immersed in the data, this would make more sense. You go out to the next point in the Fibonacci spiral here where it says the Woodinville home and Bosnian pyramids. So again, my house that I grew up in also aligns out here in Wallowa Lake at the same trajectory as the Richland Masonic Lodge, but it meets up at a different point. At yet another point, I don't want to get deep into the Mount Tabor ones, guys, but there's basically alignments all across the world that wind up here in Wallowa Lake. For some strange reason, when you go to the tops of all these different pyramids in these different locations, whether it's a garden near Hong Kong or Macau that was used by Bruce Lee in the filming of a movie, it aligns to this pyramid, this structure out here in Oregon. It aligns out here at 33.33 degrees. You're hearing her? I'm trying to help explain it better without having to go deep into the maps, because I can't do that without throttling the connection badly. So, like, for example, Bruce Lee is standing in the center of this garden in Fist of Fury, filming a fight sequence that people wind up watching for decades later. If you watch it right now, Fist of Fury, there's a legendary scene in a garden towards the end of the movie that Bruce Lee's in. If you stand in the center of that garden and aim a line 33.33 degrees, you wind up here. Okay. Seriously, guys, all the way from China, it winds up in Oregon at 33.33 degrees. Trippy in itself. Not only does it wind up there, but it lines up with a tower that I built when I was in the wireless industry. Even trippier. Okay. Then take it a step further. It aligns with the Bosnian pyramid that's in a completely different region, in a completely different country than China. It has an alignment at 330 degrees. So again, from China, 33.33, from Bosnia, 330.33. And then, even weirder, is once they get to Oregon, these completely different sites in completely different parts of the world wind up intersecting right there at Wallowa Lake in Oregon, in Eastern Oregon State in America, right there. That's what all those lines, it looks like a big spaghetti bowl, but I promise you, that's what I'm explaining. These are miraculous alignments that all wind up out there. And they all go into this Fibonacci sequence of peak lines. Again, mountain peaks are lined up like the Fibonacci sequence, spiraling away from the center of this very unique, geographically relevant location in Eastern Oregon that almost nobody really knows about. It's not like the whole world knows about Enterprise, Oregon, or Joseph, Oregon. Trippy. So I'm trying to think if I have an article that I can specifically show you that actually demonstrates this. Well, yeah, you know something, guys. I'm going to show you one more video about the Altai pyramid. So now that you kind of have seen the sort of the miracle of the Bosnian pyramid thing, hopefully that makes sense what I just said. Because to me, this is like mind blowing shit. I don't know. Hopefully it makes sense. I gave you the right visuals, but yes, guys, sometimes the pyramid is a lake is a pyramid, and like one becomes another. There's like some types of, I don't fully understand it, guys. I almost feel like the earth is like unfolded at times. You know what I'm saying? Like that maybe one time the way that we evolved is like a big crack opened up and a mountain that used to be part, maybe that's how it happened. Maybe the Altai pyramid used to be wedged in to Lake Mead. And it was just through some weird like event that separated it in this very precise way where it's now displaced 25% across the world circumference wise, because that's what happened. It's so weird, the precision of it, you guys. That's why I was like, whoa, I want somebody to look at this because I feel like there's got to be an explanation for it. It's too, this is like way like God type planning things. People can't do this. It's got to be aliens or God or synchronicity, natural geographic synchronicity that we just don't have an explanation for yet. But it feels to me like something far more divine than that. That's all. So to me, like these things are just validations that there is something greater and there's a creator and it has a sense of humor almost, and it wants us to like sort of experience it in a way that's loving and humorous and like not traumatic and not scary and spooky. It wants us to see rainbows. It wants us to say, no, that's you doing that. You're making those rainbows with God. God and you. We are all doing this together. You get to be part of creating it with me. I'm not God. I'm saying like that's God talking to us, saying like, I get to experience life through you and you get to experience it through me a little bit. Like this is how we're co-creating the universe together. I don't come into full fruition without all of you. And yet you don't even get born without me. Isn't that trippy how God works that way? That's the universal plasma field though. That's really how it is. That's why we can say that it is what it is. It is like a God. That's what the universal plasma field creates, these incredible synchronicities. So I believe in a God. There has to be something that's a higher order power than us. But that doesn't mean I take away my personal power in believing in a higher, that something there's higher. That's all. It's very much, I'm very much in alignment with like what a lot of guys like Malachi Martin and Ed Dames were experiencing later in their life. I believe in something, but it's just slightly like a split from what other folks do, or I can't fully involve myself in their philosophy, even though I respect the origins of it and what it brought me to my teachings and learnings. So I try not to disrespect what the schools of thought that I come from prior, but I feel like there's more that can be learned or more that's to be taught and more that can be learned. That's all that we can all learn together, especially in Western nations where we've just been stupid about it. So let me get one of these articles up involving that Altai pyramid, and I'll probably end with that tonight and do some quick Q&A after I'm done with it. I know I played this recently, guys, so bear with me. If you've seen it, then I'm playing it again. That's okay. Well, hey, it's just the way it is because I got to do some of this material in repetition, but it's only 11 minutes. And this is the thing on the Altai pyramid. Okay, here we go. With what's called a meridian arc that is about a little over 5,400 nautical miles from the Altai Pyramid in Russia to Lake Mead, Nevada. Probably the first thing you're thinking, if you're 99% of the people, is what the hell is the Altai Pyramid? And so it's a naturally formed, well, hypothetically, a naturally formed pyramid structure that's in the Altai territory on the Baskchalasky Ridge in Russia. Sorry about my pronunciation. You can see the coordinates here on the screen up in the corner. I can zoom in on that for you if you're curious to find it on your own. You can punch those coordinates into Google Earth, this, and then you'll find this. All right. But before we get into that concept, I just want to show you like what this says about our interconnectedness, that there's an inverse of everything within the universe, let alone here on Earth. Okay. To me, this will blow your mind. It did me. And I've been trying to find a way to articulate it visually. And I think this is it. All right. So first of all, here's what one of the researchers that actually physically visited the site found. You can see there's almost like a wall. He calls it a China wall, like a Great Wall of China. I wouldn't really call it that, but I mean, it is kind of a wall forming structure on the top, right? And then you can see here on the aerial, that's what this is. And then as you go down to some of these other photos from this blogger, you can kind of see how the wall is formed with magma, especially here where you can see the way that the ridge line goes down. I mean, even though it's naturally forming, it has an almost like an intentionally built vibration to it. How else do I say? When you look at it, you just get the sense that, well, it looks like this now, but I have a feeling like it was something more relevant before, and it was done by design, and this is just the remnants of it. And these megalithic structures that exist all over the world, like the researcher Valery Uvarov has pointed out, does a lot of great material on this type of thing. They connect to one another. They are like communication networks, transmitting information to people, to node to node. People can actually, the reason you feel different at locations like this is because they have distinctly different energy signatures. I'm not just going to say that to say it. I mean, you can go out there with devices like the Helionosis LM4, the life meter, and actually measure orgone, life energies, and find out how areas like this compare to places that are just normal or at different elevations. And you'll see increases in these types of signals. You'll see an elevated orgone energy signature to these types of areas. People will report either feeling better or worse. And it's not always that they feel better. There's places that are pyramids that there was a lot of dark activity that occurred there, and they were designed as energy accumulators. And so those are areas where you might feel drained instead of energized. And these are all things that as we progress in our acceptance of certain types of sciences and alternative methods of measuring these things, we're learning more and more that these locations and the energies and the way they interact with humans, both at a physical level and an emotional bioenergetic level, which is to say when people receive information, when you feel like you're getting a quote download, well, this is what makes it possible. It's these naturally forming structures that are designed to radiate upward where you receive messages from, and I'll let you guess who and where. That's entirely up to you how you interpret that. But we're going to be dealing with concepts here when I show you our interconnectedness. This is the Altai Pyramid, all right? And this is going to blow your mind. Before I talk about this, though, I just need to quickly familiarize you with the concept of a azimuth, which is going back to the Google Earth here. An azimuth would be dropping a center point right there, and then saying, for example, I want to know where true north is. So notice this blue line. I just take out my line tool, just like this. I go boom, hang on, like that. And you can see I can form a 0 degree, well, pretty close to, right? But anyways, you can see how that's lined up. If you don't accept that, there's north right there. But you'll notice that the Altai Pyramid is not pointing due north at this time. It could have been aligned that way before. Right now it's at 15 degrees. That's where the ridge line of the pyramid goes, okay? So that's the azimuth that it aims at, 15 degrees. Now, before we go further, I want to familiarize you with the term meridian arc. So when you're doing these measurements, I'll use the ruler setting for nautical miles because we're dealing with concepts that are not just strictly traveling by ground. It's like air, marine, water.
things like that. You know, how many nautical miles are you traveling by ship? And since these lines that I'm drawing go clear around the world, what I do is I anchor a point here, and I literally will aim it that direction and go all the way around the globe. When you get from one point to the other, it hits right at about 10,800 nautical miles. This meter will max out here. Then you have to start another line from the center point in the opposite direction. So it would be like this. And so you'll observe here that, yeah, I mean, this 15-degree line goes all the way around the world, but for it to meet here, you have to start a center point here, go 180 degrees in the opposite, and it winds up as a 195-degree angle. But you see what I'm saying? The Earth is round if you accept that. So this line is effectively just wrapping all the way around the Earth. And so when we talk about meridian arcs, let's get back to this concept. I'm going to show you a meridian arc that's exactly as a quarter meridian, which means 25% from point to point. This will blow your mind, okay? Interconnectedness. Look at the shape of this. Pay very close attention to what I'm telling you here. This is amazing, I promise you. I'm going to show you some of the dimension of this pyramid so you can kind of get a sense of its height and depth. It is, you know, like you see in these photos, it's a considerable structure, mountain, whatever you want to call it, the Altai pyramid. Now, watch where it goes. And I'll show you in the miles here. I'll put an anchor here. Trying. All right, here we go. Now, let's type in Lake Mead, Nevada. Remember, we're going all the way from Altai, Russia to Lake Mead, Nevada. And this is going to blow your mind. It's a pyramid structure in Russia. And when you go a quarter meridian, remember, a half meridian is about 10,800 miles. So a quarter meridian is about 5,400 miles. And look what you got there at about 5,479 nautical miles, a quarter meridian in the meridian arc. You get straight to the center of Lake Mead, Nevada. That's where this red line originates, from the Altai pyramid at 15 degrees, right where it's pointing. So do you understand what I'm showing you? That when you look at this structure from the sky, that looks like Lake Mead, does it not? Like the flux capacitor in Back to the Future.
It even has the same.
It's almost like what you do is like a cookie cutter makes an imprint in the dough. It's like the mountain, the Altai pyramid in Russia. When you go 25% around the world at 5,400 miles and 15 degrees from the point where this part is here, remember, that's where the point is. That's the center of the pyramid. That's one wall. That's the other wall. And then you have Lake Mead on the other side.
It's like they made it like a cookie cutter. Altai pyramid made the imprint.
Let's go back.
Weird, isn't it? Like God made this, like, you know, like these huge hands were like, all right, I'm going to take Altai pyramid and make Lake Mead. Yeah, that looks good. It's kind of what it feels like.
I hope what I'm telling you resonates with you pretty strongly, because this says everything.
See, I don't have to like play all my whatever talk on it, but like, I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, if like, that's why I want to show people sometimes, like in person. Like, I don't even know if that presentation helped make sense, but you're just going to the center of that pyramid in Russia, right at the middle of it, and then going, I want to know why it points that way. That's it. You're just like, okay, you got these 3 arrows. Where does it go? Is it an arrow? Is it just that way for that no reason? Let's find out where it goes. And so that's what I do. I look at pyramids all over the place, and I find out where those lines go. And I see a consistency, ladies and gentlemen, with the alignments, the way they're aligned, the types of alignments, the numbers that are used in the alignments, and the things that they align to. And the more you do this kind of map research, I promise, you know, look, I mean, unless you're choosing to be, you know, ignorant or blind to it, eventually you're going to have the same realizations as I have. And that's one of the reasons why I try to like bring people back to my map research over and over again, because I feel like look, to the folks that already kind of like delve into this might give you like another layer of something that you can latch onto to try out, to where you can actually see just how many times you'll see these synchronicities. It's incredible. Like, they're global, they're all over the place. It's pretty amazing. And to me, it put me at a greater sense of feeling like there is genuinely a creator. There is that, and that creator, that God, is the universal plasma field, and that we exist within it. We're helping co-create it, and there's no need to fear that, and there's no need to think of it as or to attribute negative meanings to it, because that's something that we're choosing to do if we do it. You know, it's really weird how this doesn't look like a beanie. It looks like a completely different type of hat sometimes when I'm looking at it in the camera. It almost looks like it's making like an indentation like that or something like that. I didn't mean for it to do that. But yeah, guys, I'm going to start closing this presentation up, because I've basically given you guys like the crux of everything I wanted to show you. The Bosnian pyramids, the difference between a healing pyramid and a pyramid that draws in negative energy, so that we can kind of like, what are we going to focus on, ladies and gentlemen? There's negative energy systems that have been placed in various locations. How do we change this? You know, what's the method? We have to start acknowledging that negative energy systems exist, that weaponized negative energy systems exist. They create psychoenergetic events, and they actually change physical reality. So you can't just like be dismissive of the technology or try to like sweep it under the rug. I hope look, I want this to be something that's spiritual and uplifting. So I'm not trying to draw this into the negative, but see, we need to get past certain things that are going on in our society, so we can get on to the positive, the co-creation, the things that involve doing good, beneficial things with frequencies, to where, like, you know, things more like, you know, musical bowls that have certain resonant frequencies that heal people. Like, that's a real thing, guys. I mean, like, that's something that I even know is not bogus. There's certain tones and frequencies that'll actually create a sense of healing and wellness in you. They'll operate at very specific frequencies. And so let's start talking about the specific numbers, how to generate those numbers, and how to produce it like into something that's a practicable thing, as much as a doctor can, you know, say, I prescribe you 400 and some hertz. You know, yeah, it needs to be that specific. Oh, really? You're having this kind of ailment? Well, have you tried this type of healing frequency? Or have you tried this type of healing device? Or have you tried this type of vibratory device, or whatever it is? Sorry, I don't mean that in any other way, folks. I just mean, like, there's things that people can do to change frequency, energy, and vibration within their environment that'll actually make them feel more healed and more well, or you know, just more beneficial. And so I do know a lot about those things as well, and I feel like those things need to be put out there in a broader way as well. So anyways, folks, you know me, I'm a big fan of my 33s and everything. So I'm going to wrap this one up at the 303. And I'm glad that you guys joined me tonight and everything like that. And again, those of you who had anything you wanted to propose, working on something or a partnership or something like that, or just wanted to hire me to do something, feel free to contact me in the details below. If you don't ever find them in the clip that you're watching, just scroll through my clips and you'll eventually find all my contact details in another clip. Okay. Have a good night, everybody. I really appreciate you joining on Saturday night here. Thank you. Good night.